rookies. You both may be new, but that is no excuse for bad-mouthing one of Konoha's heroes. Now put that stuff back where you found it. Looking at Taka Hawk as he said this, the man nodded and placed the Hanya mask back on the mask rack that contained several Hunter Ninja masks from Kira to Cure. Scoffing in response, the pig-masked member unsheathed the katana and gave it a few practice swings. That won't matter, Hebe. Snake, soon the demon will die. And this magnificent sword shall be me. The rookie didn't even get a chance to finish when his right hand, his dominant and sword hand, exploded into a shower of bone and cartilage. He stood stark still for 10 seconds, looking at his new stump and the extremely sharp, bloody blades protruding from the hilt of the sword, and then back again. He let out a horrified scream of agony. His scream soon caused a small chain reaction. It startled the elephant-masked rookie, causing him to accidentally slip his thumb over the trigger device within the gauntlet. And because he was practically looking over the slot that held the hidden blade, he met his end when the blade shot out with a soft click, piercing through his left eye and lodging itself into his brain. That caused the bear-masked member to jump back in surprise and accidentally knocked into one of the shelves containing various types of weapons. The weight of his muscular body caused it to rock back, then caused the gigantic Zanbato, Zabuzes to be exact, to fall on Taka. Luckily for him, the flat of the blade landed squarely on his right foot, causing him to scream and clutch it while hopping up and down. Normally, this would have been an amusing scene, but he unfortunately slammed into the wall, causing the right side of the shelf to snap off, resulting in an iron box with shuriken locked within it to fall on his head, then an iron helmet, another iron box, an anchor, and finally what looked to be loose change. Little to say, he was completely knocked unconscious with an animated lump on the top of his head. Once the chaos was done and over with, the two unharmed shinobi quickly burst into action. The bear-masked Umbu member immediately went get a medic, while Hebe stopped the pig-masked rookie from bleeding out. Damn it all to hell, how am I going to explain this mess? He griped to himself before looking over at the bloody sword and watched the spikes that took the rookie's hand snap back into the hilt. He was definitely not going to touch anything in that room ever again. Back in the room, the interrogation wasn't going as well as the Hokage had hoped. Whatever question he asked was met with a wall of sarcasm. When he gave up, Abiki was the one who stepped in. So far, it wasn't bearing any fruit. Uzumaki, I recommend that you tell us information we wish to know. I do not want to sick Anko on you, the Scar Man said to him. And I'm telling you this, Scarface, I don't know what you're talking about. Naruto calmly replied. Come on, Abiki, let me at him. I'll get some information out of his whether he likes it or not. Anko complained to her boss, and cracking her knuckles in emphasis to her favorite way of getting what she wanted. I took several hundred beating within this village alone, and an extra 100 when IWA took my body. I'm sorry, Miss Interrogator, but any kind of pain you inflict on me would be useless. A cocky little brat, aren't you? The lavender-haired Kanochi said. Slamming her hands onto the table, she stared straight at his face and gave him her most intimidating glare that made many grown men wet themselves in fear. But Naruto, he just gave her a bored look, exactly like the one he gave Irika in math class. For Kami's sake, this kid is cool as ice. I try to please Miss Interrogator. Naruto gave her a cocky smile, which just seemed to irritate her. Quit trying to butter me up, brat. We're trying to interrogate you. Well, it's a little hard not to give you a compliment, Miss Interrogator. After all, you haven't chained me up, sick the Umbu to arrest me, or have orders to fly into my head should all else fail. The blonde replied as he glared at the three men within the room. Slamming his hand onto the table, the Sandaime Hokage stood to his feet and peered into his surrogate grandson's blue eyes. I know you are, and have been lying to me, Naruto, and I'm ashamed of you for becoming a hypocrite. I haven't been lying. Do not give me that boy. Sarutobi glared at him. You submitted a false report that would have brought us to war with IWA once again. But most importantly, you can't be trusted. There's a month in your life that is completely unaccounted for where you've changed from a bright and happy boy to this emotionless assassin with skills he shouldn't even possess. In response to the old man's shoddy reasoning, Naruto gave him the dullest stare imaginable. Really, that is the main reason I'm here, because I can't be trusted and having an assortment of skills that I shouldn't even have? Old man, It is a ninja's duty to become stronger to protect his village. If that's a crime, then I'm clearly guilty. Hokage-sama. Inoichi spoke up for the first time since the interrogation began. I believe this is as far as we can go without actually using extreme physical measures on him. It's time we enter his mind and find out what we need to know. I would disregard that action, Mr. Yamanaka. Naruto said in a surprising, respectful tone. Other than your daughter, I hold a decent amount of respect for your clan and what they have done to protect the village for 15 generations. But I warn you that if you dive into my mind, you and anyone else that accompanies you will regret it. We will take the risks, Naruto. Hiruzen authority responded. Inoichi, begin the process. Ibiki, please call in Tanbo Tobitake, Mizuku, and Shimon Hijiri. Silently nodding at the command, both elite jounin started their process for Inoichi's mind-reading technique. As the Yamanaka placed his right hand on Naruto's forehead and placed his left hand onto the Hokage's forehead to transfer their spirits into the young Jinchuriki's mind, 3 Chunin-level shinobi appeared behind the curved stone, gathered their chakra to their hands, and placed their hands onto the seals. I'm sorry to do this, Naruto, but we need to find out the truth. Inoichi apologized. Just be prepared for what you're about to see. Naruto warned him, and then shutting his eyes, the mind probing began. When both Inoichi and Hiruzen opened their eyes, both were surprised to see that Naruto's mind resembled a prison. Inoichi was especially surprised, since from his years of looking into other people's minds, he expected the Genin to have something acute to a sewer instead of a prison. This is quite unexpected, he commented. Indeed, Sarutobi agreed as he surveyed the surrounding area. Tell me, Inoichi, what we should expect within Naruto's mind. His eyes peering down the straight hallway, the Yamanaka proceeded to walk down the single corridor with caution. Honestly, I'm unsure about this one, Hokage-sama. Inoichi admitted. Naruto, he is a complex individual. While his mindscape appears to be simply designed, it could be an elaborate hoax to throw us off. Nodding in agreement, Sarutobi followed the experienced mind walker down the long hallway. They found nothing for several long minutes, at least until the elderly Kage silently went over to what looked to be a blue door. Inoichi, I may be a little rusty, but do the blue doors symbolize sad memories? I'm afraid not. The blue doors symbolize a happy memory. Here, let me show you. The special Jonin responded by opening the door, and were greeted with the memory of a young Naruto eating his first bowl of ramen. After shutting the door, the Yamanaka went over a red door. This, however, is a bad memory. Repressing a sigh, the Sandaime turned his head to see that there were more red doors than blue ones. But to his surprise, there were a few gray ones and 4 pink ones as well. What about the ones over there? He pointed them out. The gray ones are memories that he forgot about, or repressed for one reason or another. And the pink ones, well, I personally like to call them interesta. When Inoichi saw his leader raise an eyebrow, he clarified what he meant. Bluntly, my lord, they are potential love interests. Are they now? Now, this is something I have to see. With his curiosity piqued, the professor went to open one of them. When he firmly clasped his hand on the doorknob, the entire floor underneath the 2 shinobi literally disappeared underneath their feet and plummeted down into the darkness. It took a few minutes for the 2 high-level shinobi to reach the bottom. Normally, a fall like that would have ejected them from Naruto's mindscape, but he wanted to personally confront them on his questionable loyalty. The 2 heard the snap of someone's fingers, and the entire area was bathed in bright light. Well, you 2 actually did it. Naruto greeted them. Opening their eyes, the 2 shinobi saw that he was still in his prison garbs, but was sitting in what looked like a very comfortable chair with a pure oak desk in front of him and absolute darkness behind him. Please take a seat. We have much to discuss. We have nothing to discuss, Naruto. Sarutobi responded as 2 wooden chairs materialized in front of the desk. I'm sorry, Naruto, but we are not going to stop until we find what we came here for. Please make this easy on all of us and come out with the truth. Inoichi said, and I fully plan on doing that. Listen, we're all busy people, so let's just stop beating around the bush. Go ahead, start asking me questions, and I'll honestly answer anything you ask. The black-streaked blonde replied. What exactly has happened to you? What happened to the smiling boy who kept shouting how he was going to be Hokage someday? That dream has not died, old man, which is one thing that has not changed about me. Naruto calmly answered. But the reason I'm like this is quite simple. After all, death can change a person's views on life. Still claiming that you came back from death itself. Naruto, this was not amusing the first time. And it wasn't pleasant when Kakashi drove his ultimate assassination technique through my chest. Naruto bitterly retorted as he unbuttoned the top of his prison jumpsuit and revealed the wound he received on the Wave mission. Now, I'm no expert, but a lightning-covered arm through the heart is supposed to kill a man. Not missing his opportunity to try and poke his logic full of holes, Sarutobi countered Naruto's story with his own. Then how do you explain the month-long absence? From the rest of Team 7's and Zabu's testimony, the room your body was in was covered in gore when your body exploded. Now how can you explain that? That is something I cannot fully explain because even I don't exactly understand how that happened. But I believe I was reborn and my sheer awesomeness blew my crappy old self to pieces. That is probably the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Inoichi thought to himself, but despite himself, he opened his mouth to ask his question. Then what happened? The reports say that after an entire month to recover and finish the bridge, Team 7 and company spotted you on top of the sign named after you, and dressed in stone clothing to boot. Where were you? And how did you get those clothes? That is unfortunately something I can easily answer. Naruto replied in a remorseful voice that honestly surprised both Inoichi and the Hokage. After I came back to life, I ran away, and I didn't stop until what I believe was 50 miles away from Tazuna's home, and I trained. I trained for 2 weeks until I came across these two missing shinobi standing over a slaughtered fox family. And long story short, I engaged them both in a long, grueling battle and came out on top in the end. I find this extremely hard to believe, Naruto. Hiruzen voiced out his displeasure at the pure lie. To him at least, his surrogate grandson was telling him. But since you seem to have all the answers, I guess you can explain how you came to possess the knowledge to perform a vast collection of Earth-style ninjutsu. I believe I can help with that. A laid-back voice alerted them. Turning around, the two mind invaders saw a 19-year-old teenager with shaggy neck-length brown hair, bored brown eyes, and was above average in physical fitness. He wore black cargo pants, black sandals, a black long-sleeve shirt that was missing its right sleeve, and Chunin flak vest. Giving the Leaf Ninja a dull smile and wave, he introduced himself. Hello, Leaf Shinobi. I am Ishikawa Kamizuru, the Killer Hornet of Awagakure. It's a pleasure to meet the both of you. The reaction to Ishikawa's presence went as anticipated. Both Sarutobi and Inoichi went on red alert and withdrew two kunai from their holsters and immediately went onto the defensive. Naruto, what is the meaning of this? The Hokage demanded. Oh my, where are my manners? Mr. Yamanaka, Lord Hokage, I would like you to meet Ishikawa Kamizuru. He's the one who mutilated my face. I killed him, and now he's a ghost whose mission is to help me with my role in this world. Naruto introduced his resident ghost, with his voice absolutely dripping with dry sarcasm. We're cool, though. You have a ghost in your head. A ghost of a stone shinobi of the nearly extinct Kamizuru clan. Naruto, do you realize how unbelievable this is? Inoichi bellowed at the black-streaked blonde. You see him with your own eyes, Mr. Yamanaka, but please put your kunai away. I don't think he can harm you with being dead and all. Indeed, I can't. Ghost cannot mold chakra. But gentlemen, please, let's put the weapons down before this becomes too troublesome for all of us. The deceased Kamizuru yawned out, which disturbingly reminded the Leaf Shinobi of the male Nara clan members. How do we know that we can even trust you? The Hokage carefully asked, palming his face in response and muttering about paranoid old people. Ishikawa slowly raised his right hand and placed it above his heart. For what it's even worth to you people, I promise that I will not deceive you, nor anything else that I can think of at this time. Seriously, what the hell can I do to your paranoid idiots? Ishikawa, please don't insult my interrogators. Now tell them how I came to learn a good amount of Earth ninjutsu. Naruto drawled out. Yeah. Keep your pants on, Blondie. Ishikawa boredly replied as he stuck his right pinky finger in his ear. Now I'm not going to beat around the bush. After Blondie here killed me, He went all Hunter Ninja on me, or Umbu, or whatever you want to call Black Ops Force. Using only a kunai, he dissected my and Muka's corpses, and after rummaging through our guts, he learned our ninjutsu techniques. From me, he learned, I think 12 of my various ninjutsu techniques, and from that jackass Muka, he learned only 2 water ninjutsu, and that umbrella ninjutsu thing. Well, there you go. You heard it from the lazy ass's mouth. Fuck you too, Blondie. Wait. Naruto, how did you even know how to do that? But most importantly, Hiruzen brought his attention to Ishikawa. How do you know 2 of my jutsus? Huh? Oh, sorry, but you'll have to be more specific, old dude, because I know a lot about Earth Ninjutsu. I'm talking about my Earth Dragon Bomb and my Great Mud River techniques. Wait a freaking second. Is that the main reason why I'm here? Over 2 stupid ninjutsu techniques. Naruto angrily bellowed out. Shut up, Blondie. If you continue on yelling, it'll just be a bigger hole for your grave, or something like that. Ishikawa barked at his killer before glaring at the Sandame Hokage. And you, how dare you even claim those techniques as your own? Those 2 particular ninjutsu were created and mastered by a multitude of hard-working stone shinobi born before me. Now, I may be dead, but I'll be damned that I'll have you of all people boasting that you created those 2 techniques. And you're just digging my grave faster. Naruto drawled at the ghost. I think I've seen what I wanted to see, Naruto, Hiruzen announced, which caused the 2 to turn their heads towards him. And it is with a heavy heart that I must announce that you're too large a threat, and that I must seal up your memories and newfound abilities until I've deemed that you're mature enough before he could continue, let alone go through with his decision. A black beam shot out of the darkness behind Naruto and impacted between the Hokage and Inoichi. I can't let you do that, you hairless ape. A dark, eerie voice echoed within the room. Almost robotically, Naruto smiled and snapped his fingers. The darkness behind him faded to reveal, to the elder shinobi's horror, Kyuubi's cage. Even though the great fox glaring at them with his crimson eyes nearly made their hearts stop, it didn't compare to the mass of black tentacles gripping on the cage and an otherworldly crimson eye glaring down at them. WWH in Kayami's Nami, Inoichi barely managed to stutter out in shock and horror. Mr. Yamanaka, Hokage-sama, I would like you to meet my Juggin Eye, but I call him Juggin for short. Naruto introduced his 2 superiors to the demonic eyeball within his mind, while casually having his 3rd eye open himself up on his forehead, much to Inoichi's disgust. Ah, look at his face. Nice one, dude. Ishikawa laughed at the green-faced Yamanaka. Puffed, you idiotic ninjas will do anything for a laugh. Kyuubi's malicious voice echoed within their ears. Hurry and be done with this senseless jabber. I want to go back to sleep. All you do is sleep, you giant furball. Were you a cat? Do not compare me to the Nibby, you ignorant whelp. Who said I was comparing you to the 2 tails? Naruto barked at the giant fox. This led into a shouting match between both Biju and Jinchuriki, leaving both Sarutobi and Inoichi to stare dumbfounded at them, especially when Ishikawa was dragged in with them. If anyone asked them yesterday what they would have expected during Naruto's interrogation, both of them would have expected for him to cave within the first 10 or 20 minutes. But instead, they both found out that he held not 1, not 2, but 3 beings inside him, and he was comfortable with it. Insane to boot. It would simply be unbelievable if it wasn't Naruto, the boy who defied logic itself. Eventually, the arguing turned into roughhousing. For whatever reason, Ishikawa grabbed Naruto by the neck and began to comically wrangle him like a cartoon character, only for the black-streaked blonde he'd kick him in the stones, and soon they both fell to the floor trying to strangle each other. That action caused the 2-leaf shinobi to sweat drop in realization that maybe Sane was pushing it. Naruto, Sarutobi cleared his throat in order to get their attention. I believe that you still need to answer our questions. Pushing the brown-haired stone Chunin off him, Naruto brushed the imaginary dirt off him and retook his seat. Yeah, I haven't forgotten. Let me guess, the next question is why I have an eyeball embedded inside my forehead. When they both nodded, Naruto sighed out in what appeared to be exhaustion. Very well, but I doubt you will believe me. Try us. Inoichi challenged. Fine. When I died, I was brought back to life by the Shinigami himself to become his avatar of death. And for my life, I must kill 3 others, plus any others he wants dead in exchange for it. And Juggin here is a tool that he gifted me to help me do it. Naruto sheepishly replied, which caused the 3 occupants within his mind to sweat drop at his bluntness. Words cannot describe the nonsense I just heard. Sarutobi replied in a deadpan voice. It's unfortunately true, you old monkey. Shinigami-sama told me that if I steer this little dude in the right direction and do something else, I get to go to the rightful place that ain't hot and damning. Ishikawa spoke up on Naruto's behalf while sticking his pinky fingers in his ear. Taking the insult in stride, for now, the Sandaime sighed in frustration, which Inoichi mirrored as well. Things were definitely getting out of hand. What they both expected was a simple mind probe with the possibility of either erasing or suppressing whatever influence on him turned into an absolute nightmare. Not only did they learn that he had a ghost haunting him, but that he resided inside him along with a demonic eye. Say we do believe you, Inoichi said to get their attention. And I'm not saying we do what exactly you expect to happen next, that we forgive you for lying and let you off scot-free. I think not, Naruto. You are right. I don't expect to get off scot-free, and I fully expect to be punished. Naruto replied a little too calmly for their tastes. And for that I wish to enter a plea bargain. Trust me, they will be worthwhile to the village and reasonable, I assure you. What exactly do you have to offer us, especially when we hold all the cards? Sarutobi clasped his hands in front of his face. Well, as long as you keep the end of our bargain, no harm will come to anyone in the Leaf unless it's in self-defense, and I will happily share any and all information about Iwa's Berserker research and whatever you want on Ring. And I can verify what you want to know. I may not have been high up on the hierarchy, but I have heard whispers of them starting up their research once again, and my summons reporting to me one of the locations within my former home. How do I know that I can trust you? You have lied to me before like a hypocrite. Sarutobi emphasized the last word, and he saw Naruto's eyes slightly twitch in response. Consider us, even for you lying to me for nearly 13 years. Naruto growled in response. After several seconds of silence, the old Hokage sighed out loudly. I cannot do that, Naruto. What I see is nothing more than insanity at work. You're unstable. In fact, I see this as nothing but an elaborate mind game created by you and the Nine-Tailed Fox. I won't negotiate with you, and I have a good mind to contact Water Country and send Zabuza and his companions back for immediate execution. You can't do that. Naruto slammed his fists onto the desk in a rare show of fury since they entered his mind. Gone was his cool and calculating persona, and in his place was the angry genin that Kakashi described during that bandit massacre. I can Naruto. While I may not like the Mizukage, I'm not above sending deserved criminals to their deaths. And yet you showed that bitch of a matron neglect me to the point of starvation, and those who actually tried to kill me on my birthday mercy. They should have been jailed or executed, but I see them walking free and smiling at me, knowing that there was nothing I could do about it. Tell me, old man, where is the justice in that? Those were civilians, and they were tried and convicted in a civilian court. It was out of Hokage-sama's hands, Naruto. Inoichi reluctantly defended what happened to the civilians. Oh sure, let the bigots decide the so-called hero's fates for abusing an innocent child. I'm sorry, Mr. Yamanaka, but I'm not naive enough to not notice the deep corruption within the civilian council. Watch your tone, boy. I will not have you bad-mouth the people on the council. Hiruzen warned him. Open your eyes, old man. Naruto seethed angrily. Don't you see that they are rotting this village from the inside out? Did you ever in your life think that something was seriously wrong during the times you've signed those papers? Have you even checked the village's finances? What exactly are they going towards? Tell me that. That is enough, Naruto. I have heard what I wanted, and I have determined that you are untrustworthy, a liar and traitor to the Leaf. It's with a heavy heart that your chakra will be sealed off, your memories erased, that if it even exists, torn out, and you'll be sent to the Konoha Strict Correctional Facility. That's bullshit, man. If I were alive, I would kill you for this, you shitty old man. Ishikawa exploded in a rare form of fury. Damn it, Shinigami. Turn this stupid, transparent form of mine solid for 1 minute. I want to leave my mark on this monkey prick. You dare threaten me? Juggin roared as the pupil of his gigantic eye glowed with unholy black energy. I may not like this whelp, but he provided me his very own body so that I may live in this world. Now I will return the favor so that I may go on living. Despicable whelps, you dare threaten me? Kyubi maliciously growled at the two shinobi. I will not be further sealed away because of my container. I will kill you all before that happens. And before anyone could react, his foul red chakra flooded out of his cage. But before either party could even attack each other, everyone was suddenly weighed down by an extreme force. It smothered them, made their breath fall short, their spines tingle, the hair stand on the back of their necks, an insane feeling of death coursing through their entire beings. Then descending from the dark ceiling was a being larger than Kyubi himself. From his purple emancipated skin to the two horns on his head showed the two experienced shinobi that this was an otherworldly being. His long bone white hair that flowed down to the giant's knees blew from his intense power, as well as his baggy white yukata. Opening his mouth full of sharp dagger-like teeth, he spoke in a voice that would haunt the Leaf Shinobi's dreams for the rest of their lives. To think I was supposed to intervene again within the realm of the living. Naruto, you just cannot stay out of trouble. He spoke clearly despite the gigantic dagger held between his teeth. Shinigami, I apologize for you to intervene. I honestly thought I could handle this. Naruto apologized to the Kami of Death in a familiar tone. But can you please explain to these two that I'm more or less innocent on their charges, and that what I've been saying is true? Please, Lord Shinigami. I'm getting pretty tired of hearing this arguing, especially with this old jackass and his lapdog. Ishikawa pleaded. Sighing loudly for all to hear, Shinigami told both Inoichi and Hiruzen exactly what happened after Naruto died. The Kami of Death explained that he knew that Naruto's death was premature. How he removed a suppressing seal hat stunted his development, him granting the former full blonde with his katana, and finally deeming him as his avatar of death, where he served him and him alone until their contract was fulfilled, not that he told them of the targets or the bloodline within Noichi's presence. I don't believe this, Sarutobi whispered out in denial. And that is why you fail, Shinigami said before looking over to his avatar. This is the last time I become involved in humanly matters such as this. Next time, cover your tracks better. I expect more from you. I promise that nothing more will happen, Shinigami. I believe that I got my point across for these two. Naruto replied as the great deity faded away into the realm of purgatory. Now on to you two. I believe we have a little deal to discuss. Naruto, Sarutobi tried to find some sort of logic at what just happened. He looked to Inoichi, his eyes begging the man to tell him it was just a mind trick, but the veteran mind walker only shook his head. That was not any type of mind trick. No one could create something like that, and he entered the minds of psychopaths on more than one occasion in his career. So with a defeated sigh, the Hokage continued, What is it you want? I don't want anything big. Despite the bullshit you put me through, I want to help you. Naruto replied with pure honesty in his voice. I will still give you the information about Wagakure's Berserker program, and whatever I can about Amagakure. But in return, I want you to keep the promises made to me. And I implore you to look into the Civilian Council. You need to remind them that they should be involved in civilian matters and not shinobi matters. In fact, look closely at your paperwork, because those stacks shouldn't even be that high. Inoichi raised a blonde eyebrow, especially when he mentioned these promises again. Turning his head, he saw his leader darting his eyes up and down, a nervous tic that most of the Yamanaka clan knew about. My lord, now, I may have no say in this, but this sounds like an offer that you cannot refuse. It sounds far too good to be true. Damn it, quit being stupid. How long have you known the kid? From what I've seen, he's okay for a Leaf Shinobi. So give the little guy some credit, damn. Ishikawa responded to the Hokage's doubts, while not so subtly insulting them all in general. I see why he's hesitating. The pitiful Ninjin has to follow protocol. My container has to go under watch from his Umbu forces like the former Miss Shinobi for an undetermined amount of time. And that will take Team 7 off the roster until further notice, plus it will draw attention from that council of his. Juggin announced Sarutobi's nervousness after reading his mind. How the hell can you do that? Aren't we already in my mind? Naruto questioned his sentient eye. It's better not to question these things, whelp. Just hurry up and get these two out of here, so I can sleep. Kyuubi growled out at their lollygagging. Fine. Naruto rolled his eyes at his lazy tenant. All right, I believe I can do something for all of us to come out on top. Simply put, you guys know I'm not a threat. Just place me with Zabuza for a week, give Team 7 and Guy a week off, and order those involved in this to stay silent. All right, Naruto. I will give you a week of confinement with Zabuza, but only on the condition that you have a monthly session with Inoichi. And be honest with me. No more lies from the both of us. Okay. Deal, old man. Not more lies, that is a promise. Well, now that you're both done with your little pissing contest, get the hell out of here. Juggin roared at the two intruders. Unholy purple energy flared within his pupil. He blasted out a shock wave of energy that struck the two-leaf shinobi and sent them out of Naruto's mindscape. After they left, Ishikawa sighed in relief. Damn it, Blondie, that was close. If Shinigami-sama didn't spend a few precious minutes to terrify the crap out of them, you would have been screwed. No shit, Ishikawa. I probably used the rest of my luck for the year. Naruto responded. He was tired, scratched that he was exhausted. If someone told him that he would have to use his acting skills to keep a straight face while being interrogated by the head of the Yamanaka clan and the Hokage himself, he would have laughed. But after what he went through, he definitely wasn't laughing. You're not out of the woods yet, boy. You still have to visit that Mindwalker monthly, and I'm not thrilled at having his kind poke around in here. Juggin voiced his opinion on the little deal his container agreed to. I know you're not happy about it, but if he tries anything funny, I'll let you do whatever you want to him. Good no Ninjin. Now get the hell out of here, so I can sleep. Kyuubi growled out before he closed his eyes. Yeah, later, Fuzzy. Naruto flipped the giant fox the bird and faded from his mind. Damn it, woman, let me in. Sasuke bellowed at the old crone. I'm sorry, Sasuke-chan, but I'm under strict orders to not allow anyone to interfere with the Hokage's orders. The elderly Umbu secretary apologized to the Uchiha. You don't understand. My teammate was hauled off for no good reason. Come on, Mai. Please let me in, I need to dash. That is enough, Sasuke-chan. Mai's normally friendly tone turned ice cold. She then took off her thick glasses to reveal narrow, cold black eyes. I'm sorry, young one, but this is out of my hands. But it is quite all right, Sasuke. An equally elderly voice interrupted Sasuke's useless bantering. Turning his head, the Uchiha was surprised to see the Hokage himself step out into the secretarial room. The elderly man smiled. I'm sorry for worrying you. It's not a problem, Hokage-sama. Sasuke bowed at the leader of the village. But what exactly is going on? Why did you have my teammate arrested? It was a mistake on my part. Hiruzen admitted. I'm not going to lie, Sasuke. Naruto was suspected of treason. The evidence was not in his favor. But when Inoichi probed his mind, we found nothing that proved him to be a traitor. Then he's off the hook, right? He's not going off to Konoha's strict correctional facility, if that's what you're asking. But he won't be joining you or the team for an entire week. Why is this dash? It's protocol, Sasuke. Sarutobi's voice stopped the genin from continuing. While Naruto isn't in trouble anymore, he still has to be under watch determining on his current threat level. And since he is a mere genin, it won't be long until he will be back with the team again. Sasuke barely held in a smirk. Sometimes he forgot why the Hokage was nicknamed the Professor. Granted, Hiruzen didn't even think of the plan. But as they say, ignorance is bliss, and for Sasuke's sake, Hiruzen was going to let him think whatever he wanted to. Very clever Hokage-sama. I just hope that I could at least see him from time to time. I'm sure it can be arranged. The old fire shadow eyed the secretary, who calmly nodded before she pulled out some paperwork. Thank you, my lord. I won't hold you up any further. Bowing towards them, both the Uchiha wasted no time in leaving. Nodding at the secretary, Sarutobi bid her a good day and left to do a few more duties around the village. Good Kami, what a mess. My side out, Naruto-chan was wrongly convicted, and while I'm grateful it was smoothed out, it could have been worse. Political nightmare worse. You have it easy, Shika. Dear Chan, all you have to worry about is your family, a risky mission here and there, and the lack of clouds in the sky. You're right about that, Captain, and it's just the way I like it. A lazy male voice agreed as he literally emerged out of the small dark corner of the room near the door, revealing a deer mask that obscured his face. It would be a few hours later until Hiruzen arrived back at his office, and surprised the paperwork piled up again. But this time, he was ready. Oh, he was absolutely ready for the menace that plagued him for half his life. Pulling one of the sheets up to his old, but sharp eyes, he scanned each letter of every sentence. He saw that it was a request for a shipment of food for one of the stores, a harmless request, but he looked closer in between the lines. To his surprise, there was also a request for money, a hefty sum of money that should not have been needed for a shop as successful as he personally seen it rise from a stand to a shop. Setting it to the side, Sarutobi picked up the next sheet of paper. This time, it was a request for a home expansion for Councilman Gendo Hikari, one of the village's weapons dealers. Once again, he read in between the lines and saw that it was a demand for him to get a share of Hiroshi Higarashi's profits from his shop, despite that the crippled shinobi was an independent store owner, unlike Gendo's chain of weapon and clothing shops. He then read a report on how 2 of his Umbu Black Ops members were injured, one losing his hand and having to be retired because of it, one with a cracked skull, a broken foot, and a concussion. He would recover in a few weeks, but it was unfortunate to lose him for that period of time. And finally, the last one was dead in the storage room of all things. And it was thanks to Naruto's belongings, too. Man, what a pain. And he continued on for 2 hours. Not even halfway through the gigantic pile, Sarutobi was growing furious. He took deep pride at having a calm, level head, and he could only name 5 instances when he lost his temper. The first was the loss of his sensei to the Kinkaku force during the Second Great Shinobi War. The second was when his sensei's Sword the Raijin no Ken, Sword of the Thunder God, was stolen by the traitor Aoi Rokusho. The third time was the loss of his wife during Kyuubi's rampage in secret, of course, and he didn't blame Naruto for it either, mind you. The fourth time was him bellowing at his son, Asuma, for leaving Konoha to pursue his personal interests. And the final time was the complete anger and disgust at himself for failing to stop his favorite student from fleeing the village and becoming one of the most infamous criminals the village ever produced. Now, this would be the 6th time he would find himself nearly blind with rage. How long has this been going on? How long had his own council been squandering money from the village, destroying business rivals, performing more illegal activities than he wanted to admit? Before he could do anything rash, Hiruzen calmly breathed out of his mouth several dozen times. Then he brought his trusty pipe to his mouth, lit it with a small fire jutsu, and inhaled the sweet tobacco that calmed his nerves. I'm going to get them this. No one fucks with Hiruzen Sarutobi and gets away with it, he promised as smoke erupted from his nostrils like an angry bull. So, are we not going to talk about what the hell happened to the brat? Meizu asked Zabuza. Big trouble. That's all I know. The demon of the mist answered with a shrug as he laid down of their new couch. Then why are we in this new place? Not that I'm complaining, of course. Gozu questioned while he sat at the dinner table, trying and failing to hide his revulsion at the food the Umbu guys gave them. And he was kind of right. The new building they were in was larger than the one they were cramped in. It had more space, better furniture, rooms that they all could have for themselves, plus an extra one. That kind of confused them, but the men, easily passed it off for the Fox Kids using it as their den until the Uchiha brat came back for them. Before Haku could tell them that they were wrong, again, several loud knocks caused her to cease those thoughts and went to answer it. Opening the door, she reeled back in surprise, seeing a heavily scarred male wearing gray sweatpants and a white t-shirt standing right in front of her. But then catching her breath, the ice user saw familiar blonde hair with several black streaks in it, and blue eyes staring right at her. Hey, Haku-chan, looks like we're roomies. Naruto happily greeted her. Naruto! Haku cried out in surprise, seeing him at their doorstep. Her eyes blinked away the small tears forming, and she wrapped her arms around him, drawing him into a tight, but comfortable hug. Hey, it's all right, Haku, I'm fine, really. Naruto awkwardly rubbed her back. It wasn't he that was making him feel uncomfortable, but the gaze of the demon trio as they looked upon the interesting scene. It looks like I have some explaining to do, don't I? He asked when the Fox Kids joined in the staring. I believe you do, kid. Hurry on in before you sleep outside tonight. Zabuza growled at the new occupant. And while Naruto was explaining his situation to the people he was forced to share a place with, Hiruzen Sarutobi was busy observing the council in front of him. It was late at night, and most of them, mainly the civilians, were still in their pajamas. That was his plan from the beginning. After the old Kage saw the corruption with his own two eyes, he played the waiting game. He let the hours pass him by until it was extremely late, and then he ordered the Umbu Black Ops to gather the entire council for an emergency meeting. And with them all in his sights, all sleepy and unprepared, the kami of Shinobi was about to get his well-justified vengeance. Staring at the council, Hiruzen first took note of the civilian side. The first being Jindo Ikari, a very popular weapons merchant, but he paled in comparison to Hiroshi Higurashi, who didn't cut corners on his work. He viewed several other members of the council. Several of them were pretty dirty, but out of the bunch, only two didn't have any known crimes, but they could be clear of the chopping block for now. He then observed the shinobi members of the council. Out of the 10 seats, only 3 were empty. They consisted of the nearly extinct Uchiha clan, the dissolved Senju clan, and the Kurama clan, who gave up their position in shame due to dwindling numbers. That left only the Aburame, Hyuga, Nara, Akimichi, Yamanaka, Inazuka, and of course Sarutobi clans to deal with shinobi matters. The Hokage didn't know if any one of them were guilty, so he would wait to punish any of them once he found out. And that included his own clan if any of them were guilty of whatever crimes they did. But for now, that would come later. It was showtime. Do any of you know why you were summoned here? Hiruzen demanded. The first response was a loud yawn from Shikaka Nara, Konoha's master strategist and leader of the Nara clan. We don't, Hokage-sama. Would you mind telling us why we're here, so we can get back to bed? Did I mention he was the laziest bastard in the entire village? Yeah, what is the big deal? One of the civilians, a wealthy food merchant, demanded. In response, Sarutobi gave them a predatory smile that caused some Inazuka's spine to tingle. He reached into his robe, producing a small stack of papers, and flung them at the council. All of you are here for one thing, and that is to witness the judgment of several members of the council for embezzlement, falsifying reports, and treason. That's absurd. Who in their right minds would commit such a betrayal? Jindo demanded. One of them would be you, Jindo-san. Shibi Aburame, the leader of one of the 4 royal clans of Konoha, answered the weapons merchant in his monotone voice. It's all in between the fine print, cleverly disguised, but not impossible to spot for a shinobi. The same goes for Rufi Sanahana, a man who I thought I could trust to help run my businesses. Choza Akimichi glared at a pudgy, civilian council member, the wealthy food merchant to be exact. Choza-san, please let me exp yak. The pudgy council member was cut off from any explanation when the leader of the Akimichi clan gripped his entire body with his now gigantic right arm. The biggest man in the room would have succeeded in crushing his disloyal partner if it wasn't for the Hokage's killing intent preventing him from going through with it. Choza-san, I understand your anger, but I will not allow any bloodshed within these chambers. When he saw Rufi smiling is what looked like triumph, the Hokage animated it with his next sentence. Each and every single one of them will personally be interrogated by Ibiki Marino, and if they will be dealt with in a fitting manner. With a snap of his fingers, several Umbu Black Ops surrounded the 8 guilty civilian council members, their ninjados, or katanas, poised at their throats. You can't do this. Jindo raged at the leader of the village. We are the civilian council. We have the most experience that the populace deserves. You need us. I need you like I need the endless migraines you put me through. Take them away from my sight. Sarutobi ordered his subordinates, and once they did via body flicker, a weight was finally lifted from his old shoulders as he turned towards the remaining council members. Surprisingly, it was Shikaku who was the first to speak since the entire ordeal started. Well, since you have delivered your judgment, I suppose that we should watch our backs as well. You would be correct. Hiruzen answered the Nara. In 1 week's time, we will hold an election for newer council members, ones that will have to go through various restrictions and tests, so an incident like this never happens again. His eyes hardened when he spoke the next words. And as of right now, I'm putting all requests on hold, and a team of my most loyal shinobi are going to go through the previous ones so I can find out if any more of you have deceived me. We understand, Hokage-sama. Inoichi Yamanaka, the leader of the Yamanaka clan and member of the torture and interrogation division of the Umbu, said in a neutral voice. But I wish you to know that my own clan has not deceived you in any way. But should that be the case, I will hold all responsibility for their actions and punish them accordingly. I too will deal with any members of my clan who wrong the village. Sum, the leader of the Inazuka clan and captain of the Ninkan division, promised her leader. The same will go with my clan as well. Hayashi Hyuga, another leader of the 4 royal clans of Konoha, promised in a neutral voice. Incidentally, it was the first time he spoke during that meeting. Good. You're dismissed until further notice. Pleasant dreams. Once the entire chamber was cleared, Saratobi took out his pipe, filled it with tobacco, lit it, and slowly breathed in the nicotine. Damn, did it feel good. Tenzo, I figured you would have some questions for me, he said after several moments. I do actually. A single member of the Umbu team strike team for that mission stepped out of the shadows. Normally I would never ask, but why weren't the members of the Elder Council notified of this meeting? Exhaling a stream of smoke from his nostrils, the Hokage happily answered him. It's because they would put up a fuss, telling me I was overreacting despite the evidence. Before his shinobi could ask another question, he lifted a finger to shush him. I know what you're thinking. They're going to have a hissy fit over this. I will deal with them when the time comes. But as for now, I'm going to enjoy myself with the day off. Now please head off to the T&I department. I'm sure your skills will be put to good use. Silently nodding, Tenzo disappeared in a small cloud of smoke, leaving behind a highly satisfied Sandaime to plot his next plan of action. After the successful sting operation, Naruto was finishing up his tale of why he ended up with them. So wait, you're telling me that the Sandaime arrested you over ninjutsu? Gozu asked with a raised eyebrow. And that there was a wild speculation about you being Iwagakure's sleeper agent? Meizu continued for his brother. And possessing skills that a genin should not possess. Zabuza finished for his companions. Kid, that is probably the dumbest thing I ever heard in my entire life. Naruto's scarred face scrunched up in annoyance. Or were they deaf? Dumb or not, it is the truth. It was due to a misunderstanding, paranoia, and a good amount of idiocy that I wound up here. Now, I'm not complaining since it's a light sentence, but we're going to be roomies for the time being, so I hope we don't kill each other before then. Puffed. Like we could kill each other. Seriously, kid, we can't take a piss without anyone knowing. Meizu growled in annoyance before pointing at the corner of the room. I know you're listening, you sick bastards. Ignore him. Gozu's sweat dropped at his little brother's idiocy. We've been confined for so long that some of us are going stir-crazy. He indicated towards his obviously disturbed sibling, some more than others. You two are just being wimps. I'm perfectly fine. Zabuza leaned back in the couch at his boasting. Then why so? I hear the wails of a little girl every single night from your room. Haku spoke up for the first time with a mischievous grin that matched the 2 fox kits. Every night I hear, "Oh, Kubikurabocho, oh, Kubikurabocho, I miss you, my darling blade." That's a lie and you know it. The demon of the mist roared in denial. Ha ha, Blondie, you have no idea how much I'm enjoying myself. Ishikawa laughed in glee when the demon brothers shrunk back in fear, and Haku's cute laugh echoed throughout the room at the dangerous man's misery. And I'm going to have so much fun here, Naruto thought with a smirk. 4 days later. Arf, I'm so bored. Naruto whined out from the backyard. Join the club, brat. Zabuza shouted from the inside of the house. 4 days passed since his incarceration, and Naruto found himself about to lose his mind. Not only was he not allowed to train physically, but he was also not allowed to do anything that was considered fun. There weren't any board games that any of them could occupy themselves with. Hell, there wasn't even a deck of cards. Whenever Sasuke came to visit, it only was for 15 lousy minutes, and that included Ichigo and Benaheim being escorted off the property once the Uchiha first arrived, the bastards. The only thing remotely entertaining was his interactions with his roommates. Gozu and Meizu somewhat entertained him by their hijinks when they were younger with what they called combination pranks. Some of them were good source material for future pranks he had in store for certain people in the village, but then they told him about all the people they cut into chunks with their gauntlets. Geez, he didn't need to know that kind of thing. Then there was Haku. Now she was pleasant to be around, With her cute smile, her melodious laugh, hell, he even enjoyed it when she flicked the stray strand of hair from her face. He didn't know why, but being around her had a calming effect on the situation he was in, but it still didn't help cure his boredom, damn it. Finally, there was Zabuza. Quite frankly, the black-streaked blonde didn't know much about the scary man. Basically, all he had to go on was that he slaughtered an entire classroom of would-be genin when he was 8 years old. He became a member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist and was a master of silent killing, water-based ninjutsu, and kinjutsu. That was it. Why don't you just go ask the big lug about his past? I couldn't hurt to ask, Ishikawa said within his head. Well, let's see. First he would say, it's none of your damn business, and then he would probably shove his foot up my ass for asking. Naruto dryly responded, I just think you're too sacred. But that doesn't surprise me that a ninjin is afraid of something. Juggin mocked his container. Shut eyeball, don't make me poke you. The preteen mentally barked back at the sentient eye. But as soon as that sentence left his mouth, he had to grit his teeth painfully when his third eye ravished his body with an untold amount of pain. Foolish idiot, that is what will happen if you or anyone pokes me. Your body will be racked in crippling pain, leaving you helpless as a newborn baby. Do you understand me, boy? Gah, all right, I get it. The black-streaked blonde sighed in relief when the pain stopped. After making a mental note to never ever threaten the eyeball with bodily harm again, he asked the sentient tool a question that had been bugging him for a while. Hey, Juggin, if that shit is going to happen, why don't you use your magical demon powers or whatever and combine yourself with a Kiro Shingen? Juggin briefly thought of sending another wave of pain into his container for that insulting question, but he figured it to be unnecessary. After all, it was just an innocent question. Boy, you're lucky I don't send another surge of pain through you for that question. But why don't you? Wouldn't you become the most powerful thing in the entire world? Listen, you've worked with tools before, right? Well, you cannot cut wood with a screwdriver in place of a saw. That is why I cannot combine myself with that dojutsu of yours. I'm just not designed to do it, so you're stuck with me on your forehead. Are you satisfied with my answer? I am actually. Thanks, Juggin. At least I know more about you than I thought I would. Well, later, I need to do something that will allow me to hold on to my sanity. After cutting the link, Naruto stood to his feet, stretched, and headed towards the house. Once inside, he was greeted by a member of the Umbu Black Ops. Damn it all, what do they want now? All right, stay calm. It was probably a summons from the Sandaime or some other Umbu type of thing. Greeting, Umbu-san. What can I do you today? The head of the Yamanaka clan has instructed me to retrieve you. The masked shinobi answered. Let me guess, my mental evaluation? A mental evaluation? Is our new resident here crazy or something? Oh, great. Why of all times did Zabuza have to bump into his personal business? That is classified information, Momochi-san. All you need to know is that Naruto-san needs to see him right away. Fine, take the brat and go. Oh, and before I forget, tell those assholes in your headquarters to prepare us some decent food. We're starving over here. The irritable demon of the mist griped at the masked leaf shinobi. We will see, the Umbu member said before he gripped Naruto's shoulder, and both disappeared in a small cloud of smoke. Several minutes later, Naruto found himself within Inoichi Yamanaka's office within the Umbu headquarters. His hands were restrained to the iron arms of the chair. Along with his feet, a chakra draining tag was slapped to his jumpsuit, making him feel weaker than normal. He was not happy at all with being restrained, but it was procedure, and he asked not to be treated any differently lest any suspicion was aroused. The door opened behind him, and the footsteps of the owner of the office echoed until he reached his wooden desk. Uzumaki-san. Inoichi greeted his patient. Inoichi-san. Naruto nodded his head in greeting. We're on a first-name basis now. Interesting. Might as well be. You saw a good deal inside my head and cooperated into this charade. I guess you're right. Very well, Naruto-san. Inoichi nodded at him. Now, do you know what I'm going to do in this mental evaluation? Honestly, I don't. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Well, I'm going to dive into your mind for about an hour. And with your cooperation, we're going to root around in your memories. We're going to dig up some unpleasant ones, but it will help you with accepting and dealing with them with my help in the long run. I will also do anything else that may be appropriate. Very well, but promise me that if I don't want to confront something just yet, please respect my wishes. Trust me, I will be professional about this. Inoichi strolled over and placed his hand on Naruto's forehead to begin the session. Inside Naruto's mindscape. All right, where do we start? Naruto questioned Inoichi once they entered his mind. I was hoping to discover the sudden change in your behavior. I read up on the reports a few days ago, but I would like to learn the truth if you don't mind. Inoichi professionally responded as he pulled out a pen and small notepad. They weren't real. It was something his clan developed over the countless generations of mind, walking for them memorize particular memories of patients or prisoners. I did say I would cooperate. Just don't be too surprised when you see anything weird. The black-streaked blonde gestured towards one of the many red doors in his mind. Naruto, I've been into the minds of psychopaths. It would take more than what you have in here to faze me. The blonde special Jonin gave the young man an assured grin. Inoichi opened the door and stepped inside before shutting it behind him. And so Naruto waited for 10 minutes. He whistled boredly while rocking back on his heels and toes. He was joined by Ishikawa 9 minutes into his waiting time. So, mind-probing time? The dead stone Chunin asked. Yep, Naruto answered. Do you actually feel you know him wiggling around in there? Actually, no. I always thought it would feel like some sword or worm wiggling around in my brain. Naruto admitted. He read up on the Yamanaka clan's abilities before his incarceration and thought how terrifying it was to be mind-raped by a clan that could make you brain-dead or into a mindless husk that could be reprogrammed. But instead, he felt absolutely nothing. It was just the professionalism Inoichi produced throughout the process that put him at ease. Really? Well, you ought to be careful. Back in IWA, one of our shinobi got into a scuffle with a member of that clan, and that Yamanaka guy messed him up. I mean, the dude had the IQ of one of our members, and he had to be put out of his misery. I mean, he could not control his own bowels, let alone form a single word. Hey, unlike you, I still have some sort of faith in my village. I trust Inoichi to be professional about this. You just know that Kyuubi and Jugen are watching the entire thing. And if he screws up, he gets eaten. Yeah, that too. After their conversation ended, the door to that particular memory opened and Inoichi emerged from it. The blonde Yamanaka's face was pale, his right eye twitching wildly, and his hair standing on end like he was electrocuted. How on earth are you still sane? He asked with an exasperated voice. Sanity is overrated. Naruto shrugged in response. Yeah, it really is. Ishikawa added his 2 cents. I should have known better than to ask the two of you. Inoichi rubbed the bridge of his nose to fight off a migraine. Good Kami Naruto sure knew how to push one's buttons. All right, I have the information I needed to gather on that subject, but now I want to investigate those gray memories of yours. Whoa, not a good idea, Inoichi-san. Those are gray for a reason. I chose to repress them for a reason, and I'd rather not bring up something that's long dead. Naruto waved his hands, signaling that it was absolutely not okay. All right, we will leave them alone for this session. But I do need to investigate one other door before this session is over with. Inoichi said, tapping on the notebook with his pencil. And I'm leaning towards one of the pink doors. None of them include your daughter. The black-streaked blonde deadpanned. I should hope not. The fuck is that supposed to mean? Ishikawa demanded. You think your precious little girl is too good for him? Huh, is that what this is? The fuck? Naruto raised an eyebrow, wondering why the hell his ghost tenant was sounding like some cheesy gangster. Who? No. I said that because she has her sights set on Sasuke, and I'd rather not have Naruto go through unnecessary heartbreak. Inoichi answered with a straight face. Well, sorry to disappoint you, Inoichi-san, but I don't like your daughter. I never have and never will. And why not? This time it was Inoichi's turn to be offended. Because she is a bitch. She threw away a good friendship for a boy of all things, and is currently destroying her career by stalking the same exact boy. Naruto listed off the cold, hard truth. Naruto-san, that was back in the academy. She has changed since then. With Sasuke at the same time. Sasuke felt his spine tingle. Oh shit, that was not a good. That meant a fangirl was nearby. He knew it was only one because if it was 2 or more, the hair on the back of his neck would stand straight up. He turned his head towards the spot. He felt her unholy presence. Instead of seeing a female head, he saw nothing but a wooden fence. Turning his head towards the ground where the two fox kits were prancing around. It nearly put a smile on his face, seeing the two animals playing without a care in the world. And it was a shame his teammate could not be here to see it, but then again, he would have probably mauled the people secretly glaring at the two fox kits. Honestly, it was becoming annoying. Sure, the QB attack was still pretty raw, and if it wasn't for his presence, he figured they would have been impaled on pikes, but it was ridiculous. He then heard a rustle and snapped his head toward a nearby bush. There was still nothing, no leaf out of place. Damn it, at times like this, he wished he was a sensor ninja. Then he would not have to deal with this crap. The Uchiha felt a tail brush against his leg and saw Ichigo's scarred face looking up at him. Hang on, that gave him an idea. Hey, Ichigo, do you smell something? Sasuke asked the red-furred fox kit. The growing fox tilted his head in confusion. Listen, there's a fangirl stalking me. Do you know what a fangirl is? Ichigo blinked. That really didn't answer his question, but the duck-haired preteen figured it to be a no. Well, a fangirl is a horrid abomination from hell. They have forked tongues, sharp nails, and no souls. Rumors have it that they become giant spiders that spin webs, and when they capture you, they will slowly eat your souls. It's a long and grueling process as they extract it from you to increase their immorality. And when they gain enough souls, they will call upon their dark gods, gods known as the Great Old Ones, to destroy us all. Ichigo only blinked. That sounded like a giant load of bullshit to him, and he was a completely different species. Hell, even Benaheim rolled her eyes. How sad was it that two fox kits thought that their adoptive uncle bought into all that propaganda? Come on, I haven't mastered the chameleon jutsu yet. Please just take one sniff, and I will ask nothing of you for the rest of the day. Sasuke was close to begging. Sighing, or as much as fox could sigh, Ichigo sniffed the air. He then began hacking in revulsion. Good Inari, what kind of human wore that kind of stench? The red-furred fox then pointed his tail in the direction of the nearest tree. It was then Sasuke scooped both him and his sister into his arms before bolting to the safety of their current home. After Sasuke departed, a part of the tree fell away, revealing one Ino Yamanaka holding a cloak for camouflage purposes in her arms. Kami damit. Sasuke-kun, why do you deny our love? I doubt that. Naruto responded in a dull voice. Ah, good one, Blondie. My daughter aside, I would like to focus on something before this session is over. If you won't allow me to open any more doors, then how about some information? Inoichi said irritably. Honestly, the boy was being more of a pain in the ass than usual. What kind of information? Naruto asked. We want to put on record several items, mainly your Kekkei Genkai, that third eye, or yours, or that katana. I only want one of the three for this session. Naruto narrowed his eyes when he mentioned those three. Honestly, the black-streaked blonde didn't want to reveal the secrets of his Kurashigan, Handen Ryoku, or even Jugen. They were his to keep, hopefully to his grave, or if he had any children. Man, this was a tough call. Either he had Inoichi dig through the memories he rather left alone, the pink ones that he was too embarrassed to reveal, or one out of three subjects that he could not really reveal without Shinigami's permission. Fuck it. He would just have to deal with Shinigami's wrath later. All right, I will tell you about my sword. Now please pay attention because I cannot repeat this, so I don't get into trouble with the big guy. If you know what I mean. Fair enough. Inoichi readied his pen and paper to write down the information. All right, my katana's name is Handen Ryoku. It's a one-of-a-kind weapon created by Priest Goro Masamune and Sengo Muramasa Dash. I am sorry. Inoichi interrupted the preteen. Are you telling me that this sword was created by famous dead swordsmiths? Yes, Shinigami tore them from heaven and hell to create it. It took 7 years in purgatory for them to make it due to complications. But the result of their labor is nothing to laugh at because this sword has the power to send souls to their rightful place. Naruto stopped to catch his breath and to observe Inoichi paling a little bit as he wrote this information down. Before it was finished, Shinigami placed a sliver of his judging powers into it, so that it would judge any earthbound or newly deceased spirits wherever I go. It is also made of chakra steel, so I can pour my nature affinity into it. There's also a neat little trick with the skull. It's hollow inside for any herbal creams to put on cuts and other minor wounds. And that's it? Is there any more you can think of? The Yamanaka clan head asked. Not unless your Umbu guys found out something. Actually, while you were in the middle of your interrogation with a Biki, two rookie members messed with your equipment. The hilt of your sword caused one of them to lose his entire right hand, and it caused the second rookie to activate something on one of your gauntlets. Because of that, we have one shinobi that was forced into retirement and a dead one. Mind explaining that to me? Well, for one, shame on those two for messing with my shit. Inoichi sweat dropped hearing that. And second, I did not know about that feature with my sword. I had a feeling something would happen if someone other than I touched it, but not that. Also, those bracers are activated by some sort of switch. Seriously, am I going to be tried for their stupidity? No, they were at fault. But anyways, we're done for now. I'll see you again next month. It would be another hour later before Naruto found himself back in the company of Zabuza and company, and another 3 days before he was released from custody. Oh, by the love of the Shinigami, Naruto was so glad to be free of that place. Seriously, now he knew why Meizu was going insane. Well, more insane than usual. He could literally feel himself growing weaker by the day of inactivity. But now that he was free, he was going to rectify that with many hours of physical exercise and some clones for his chakra exercises. After being released, the Blackstreak Blonde was escorted to some sort of supplier. He didn't really know what to make of it. What he was seeing was some sort of service counter with a male Umbu member wearing a raven mask behind it. Of course, he wasn't just out in the open. The shinobi was behind shatterproof glass and chakra-draining steel bars. Mr. Uzumaki, the raven-masked shinobi politely greeted Naruto. In his hands were his clothing that was wrapped in thick plastic, which he pushed through the small opening of the steel bars. One complete black outfit with fishnet chainmail shirt and belt buckle, 2 shuriken pouches, kunai holster, hitayate, and sandals. All cleaned and ready for use. After Naruto gathered up his clothing, the man pushed through the scrolls. 1 sealing scroll, checked, and everything clean and accounted for. After the preteen took the scroll, the man carefully pushed the demonic Hanya mask through the opening. And 1 scary as fuck mask. Your weapons will be given to you at the entrance of the Umbu building. The dressing room is the first door on your left. Have a nice day. The Umbu member then closed his area down by blocking it off with a steel shutter from the inside. All right then. It proceeded like clockwork after that. Naruto changed into his comfortable clothing, received his weapons at the entrance, and walked outside as a free man, where he was greeted by Sasuke. Dobe. Sasuke greeted with a nod of his head. Team. Naruto returned with a greeting of his own, a smile upon his face even though it could not be seen. Sasuke suppressed a chuckle and greeted him with a handshake. And with both Ichigo and Benaheim never too far away from their paranoid uncle, yipped in excitement seeing their dad. Using their powerful leg muscles, they easily hopped upon Naruto's shoulders and nuzzled him affectionately. The scene was so cute and so sweet, the observing Umbu operatives swore they got diabetes. So, what your first act as a free man? Sasuke asked with an amused twinkle in his eyes. I'm going to train my ass off, Naruto happily exclaimed. The usual place? Oh yeah. A week passed since Naruto's release, and everything became routine. It was wake up, eat, spar, do a D-rank mission, eat, and train some more on their own time, eat, and then go to bed. It was becoming so boring. After that B-ranked mission, the genin of Team 7 were feeling completely restless, but for one it changed them completely. Sasuke wanted to do another mission of that caliber again. He knew that he was ready. Just the thought of fighting in a life or death situation was getting his blood pumping. But instead of fighting mercenaries or bandits, he wanted to fight shinobi. The Sharingan user didn't care if it was someone from Mist or Stone or even shinobi from a minor village like Rain. He just wanted to fight side by side with his comrades and kick some ass. For Sakura, however, she found it really hard to be at home. After the mission, she went to report to her mother about anything incriminating they could use against Naruto. But instead of her reporting that he fought like a demon, she lied. She told her that her teammate did not do anything of the sort. The pink-haired genin instead said that he saved her life once, killed a couple of bandits, But she didn't remember anything afterwards after she killed her first two people. Her mother was not pleased, but didn't do anything further. Afterwards, Sakura tried to get closer to Naruto, to have him trust her again, and so far she had little to no success for these past 2 weeks. And then there was Naruto. All he wanted to do was get some more missions under his belt. Sure, he loved to kick ass and take names, but what he needed was experience. After all, how was he supposed to kill Orochimaru, Danzo, or Madara Uchiha? And as each day passed, he was growing more doubtful that the last one was even alive. But there they were. All three of them were heading towards their training field for another boring day. All right, I'll bite. Why is there a rock following us? Sasuke boredly asked, indicating a square rock following them in the middle of the street. Oh, that's just the Hokage's grandson, who by now should have learned that a rock is never a perfect square, he yelled, doing a perfect imitation of Iruka's famous big scary head jutsu. As soon as he said that, the black-streaked blonde pivoted towards the rock and kicked it towards the gates of the village, revealing 3 children. Konohamaru was one of them, and he was accompanied by a short, brown-haired, nose-dripping boy with wire-rimmed glasses, wearing a blue long-sleeved sweater and white shorts, and a ginger-haired girl with a permanent blush with her hair pulled back into pigtails, wearing a pink shirt and a tan shorts. What the hell are you 3 doing? Naruto sweat dropped, seeing the ridiculous scene. The girl reacted first, jumping in front of the 2 boys and striking a pose. I'm Moegi, Konoha's sexiest kunoichi. The snot-nosed boy with glasses jumped to Moegi's left and struck a pose as well. I'm Udon, and I love math. Konohamaru just stood there grinning. And you already know who I am. Striking various stupid poses, they shouted, "We're the Konohamaru Corps," they all said together. It feels like I just died a little on the inside, Ishikawa said next to his ward after he witnessed their antics. And he is already dead. I ain't handling this. You're on your own, Blondie. The deceased Kamizuru then bugged out and went to peek on the woman's hot springs. That was terrible, Kyubi agreed. Stupid Ningans. Jugen muttered in disgust. Naruto, I'm blaming you for this, especially since they have those stupid goggles on their heads. Sasuke internally sweat dropped. Oh, brother. Apparently, Sakura's opinion of her teammate dropped a little that day. Konohamaru, what the hell was that? Your theatrics were awful. Plus, what kind of pose is that? I give that performance a 3 out of 10. Apparently, Naruto was the only one who really thought something about it. Even though they were disappointed at first, the 3 young children then took a minute to gawk at their boss' radically changed appearance. Wow, boss, what did you do to yourself? You look. Awesome. Udon finished for his friend. Well, people do change, and I changed awesomely. Naruto chuckled in mirth. All right, what is it you all want? All right, boss, we're having a tough time with our shuriken throwing. Is there a chance you and Sasuke can come by the academy and teach us a few pointers? It did wonders for Iruka-sensei the last time you visited. Konohamaru looked at the team with pleading eyes. Well, he wasn't wrong. Sasuke had been keeping tabs ever since both Naruto and himself terrified the academy students, and they were behaving for the most part. But Iruka did threaten them all a few times that he would bring them in if they kept acting up. Sorry, Konohamaru, but my team and I are heading to see our sensei. We'll catch up another time. Okay, little buddy, Naruto said, trying to not disappoint them too badly. Sure thing, boss. Go and kick some ass for us, okay? Giving his rival to become Hokage a bright grin, Konohamaru and his small gang of friends left to go off and do ninja stuff. Well, you certainly have a way with kids, Sakura commented. They're all right. All they need is some proper training, and they can be kick-ass like me. Naruto replied with a huge hidden grin, but more on guard since she actually said something nice to him. Well, I'm sure you would one day be a great FA dash. Let go of me, you big bully. Immediately hearing Konohamaru's screams, the 3 genin rushed to where he was screaming. Once they arrived at the scene, the 3 genin saw the Sandame's grandson being held up by some guy dressed in a black outfit with a red and yellow circle on front, a strange object on his back wrapped in bandages, strange purple marking on his face, and a cat-like headpiece that bore the Hittite of Sunagakure, the village hidden in the sand. Next to the guy was a girl that had blonde hair that was split into 4 pigtails and piercing blue eyes. She was wearing a white dress that had a mesh shirt underneath. She also had a giant iron fan strapped to her back. Kankuro, put the kid down, he's not worth it. The blonde girl sighed tiredly. It was obvious that she was tired from the long travel from their village and just wanted to rest for the night. I don't care, Temari. This kid hit my leg, and he needs to pay for it. Kankuro responded rudely to the blonde. Already he was irritated from the long travel and wanted to let off some steam. Well, now he found an outlet. When he raised his arm to punch the kid square in the mouth, he suddenly felt cold, sharp steel at his throat. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Unprovoked assault on the Sandame's grandson would be a serious crime, more than punishable by death. Naruto hotly said to Kankuro. He was barely keeping the kunai in his right hand steady. No one assaulted his friends and gets away with it. Temari was about to pull her fan on the masked shinobi when she too felt cold steel touching her neck. To her credit, she moved one eye over to see Sasuke holding the deadly tip of his Kusarigama to her jugular vein. Sorry, but my teammate does not like unprovoked attacks. You should count yourself lucky that we stopped you. And why should I count myself lucky about that? The Kunoichi questioned her captor. Well, the one in the tree could do something worse to you, Naruto said, making everyone look towards the nearest tree. There they saw an auburn-haired teen no older than them, with black rings around his poopy sea-green eyes that showed his insomnia. He wore black cargo pants, a black t-shirt with a fishnet shirt underneath it, black shinobi-styled sandals, along with a scarf tied around his neck, and had a gourd on his back. His most distinctive marking was a red tattoo with the kanji symbol for love above his left eyebrow. He disappeared in a swirl of sand and appeared near the captured Kankuro. Kankuro, you are a disgrace to the village, the auburn-haired teen said. But Gaara, it wasn't my dash. Shut up, or I will kill you. Gaara turned to face both Sasuke and Naruto, both by now released their captives. I apologize for my brother's stupidity, but however I am curious as to how you discover my location? Gaara asked. You leaked a good amount of killing intent when you stared at the idiot, Naruto replied, pointing his thumb at peeved Kankuro. I see you are skilled. Both of you are if you manage to catch my siblings off guard. What are your names? Gaara asked. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke introduced himself. And my name's Naruto Uzumaki. What is yours? Naruto asked. My name is Gaara of the Desert. I look forward to facing you both in the exams, the Sanjinin said. And with that confrontation finished with, they turned around to walk away with both his siblings in tow. And while that entire scene played out, Sakura found herself left out again. And as she witnessed how fast and how strong her teammates were, she honestly began to question her skills as a kunoichi. 10 minutes later. Hello, my cute little genin. Kakashi greeted his team with his usual eye smile. Almost immediately, Sasuke brought his hands into the tiger seal and shouted, Release! When nothing happened, the Uchiha was joined by Naruto to try and dispel the illusion. While it was amusing to watch his genin try and dispel a supposed illusion, the silver-haired man held up his hands to stop them. I'm not a Jinjutsu. Come on, let's get started here, okay? You're early, the three genin shouted at the same time. Yes, I am. Is that really surprising? Kakashi asked, almost like he was sincerely confused. Yes. Chucking in mirth, the copycat ninja reached into his left hip pouch and pulled out 3 slips of paper. Well, now that you 3 have finally arrived, I can give you these. This is so that you can enter and compete in the Chunin exams coming up. The Chunin exams? They're coming to our village. Sasuke questioned. Oh, thank Kami, he was so relieved. This meant that he would have the chance of being promoted, go on higher and more dangerous missions, and be one step closer to his goal in killing Itachi. Fucking sweet. Kakashi, have I told you how much I love you? Naruto happily read his sheet over and signed it with a pen Kakashi provided. After signing his paper, the Jinchuriki handed the pen to Sasuke, and like his teammate, signed the paper without any hesitation. He then handed it to his sensei the same time his teammate did. But after handing it to Sakura, all 3 shinobi noticed her hesitation. She gulped several times, and her hands shook violently. Sakura. Surprisingly, it was Naruto who spoke up. If you don't feel up to it, we would understand. After all, it's barely been 5 months since we became genin. and we've done only 2 high-level missions and only have a few kills under our belts. We have a decent amount of experience, but we might need a little more time like Team Guy. We'd rather not have you go in without any confidence and have it end badly for you. But if you do sign the paper, just know that Sasuke and I will have your back. Boy, what are you doing? Juggin demanded. What do you think I'm doing? I'm consoling my teammate and hoping to whatever god of luck or courage will have her sign it. Naruto replied. But you dislike that pink howler monkey. Don't you remember all those punches to the head? The abuse she and that blonde bimbo cause you at your school? Why console this piece of filth when you could easily destroy her? It's because she's trying. I have not forgotten what she has done, but she is trying to change since I saved her ass on that B-rank mission. I would have to be my old self to not notice this before. PFT. So you're going to forgive her after all she has done. Ninjins, I will never understand your kind. That's the problem, Juggin. You don't try to understand us. And I don't need to. Feeling the sentient eyeball cut the link, he returned his focus on his pink-haired teammate. She looked at him, her expression surprised and relieved. She brought the pen to the sheet of paper and signed her name before handing it back to Kakashi. Good job, you three. You passed the test. Kakashi pocketed the papers and I smiled at his Genin team. Test? What test? Naruto demanded. To enter the Chunin exams, all members of the team have to sign these forms. If Sakura didn't sign it, none of you would have been able to enter this year. Now I want you three to be at the academy first thing tomorrow morning. Dismissed, and sleep tight, you're going to need it. Kakashi ordered the three before disappearing in a small cloud of smoke. Huh. Well, I guess I'll see all of you tomorrow. And Naruto, thank you. Sakura bowed to her two teammates and left to go home. Well, I guess we should dash. Let's get it over with. I'm sure Haku would love to look after them. Sasuke interrupted his teammate with a sigh. He didn't mind Haku too much. It was the other three that always shook his nerves to the core. Glad we're on the same page. Come on, duck ass, let's go. Don't call me that, dough. Hey, wake up. Sasuke grumbled and pulled his sheets over his head. Oi, team, wake up. Damn it, Dobe, it's... Sasuke cracked open his eyes and saw that it was 4 o'clock in the freaking morning. He turned to glare at his teammate with all the hate he could muster. Someone better be dead or dying for you to wake me up this early. No one important to my knowledge. Naruto shrugged, donned his full shinobi gear ranging from his black sandals, vest, skull belt buckle, to his Hanya mask and all. Listen, I know it's late, but I cannot sleep anymore with the exams coming up in a few hours. It does not start until 8 in the morning. Go back to sleep, dang it. You're right, I am far too pumped. Listen, we dropped the kits off yesterday, and we have a few hours to kill. Naruto then began pumping his arms in excitement. Come on, Sasuke team, get dressed and head out with me. We need to polish our skills to a fine point to become Chunin. I honestly hate you. Throwing off his covers, the Uchiha rubbed his tired eyes. It took forever to calm himself down and get some much-needed shut-eye, but then the idiot on his team just had to get him excited about their potential increase in rank. Fine. Training ground in 10 minutes. I will meet you there. Without another word, Naruto raced out of Sasuke's bedroom and into the night. I honestly thought I locked my door, Sasuke said to himself before getting to his feet. Oh well, no time like the present. Within 10 minutes, the two young shinobi were at their familiar training grounds, and at 7:30, the groundskeeper let out a horrific shriek. The grounds were torn asunder, grass was burnt to ashes and in dire need of being replaced. Large patches of neck-deep mud littered the ground along with hardened chunks of earth pointing out the ground like spears or walls. One even looked like a dome. Large cuts also littered the ground and trees, some being completely cut in half or set on fire. There was also the water issue where it was ankle-deep in some parts. Other areas were just soaked with uprooted trees. Little to say the groundskeeper was not pleased. Nor would the Hokage be pleased when he looked at the report, and the few shinobi who were proficient in the semi-rare earth release affinity, and one certain Umbu member were not pleased that they were assigned to clean up the mess of two overzealous youths. The academy, 8 a.m. What happened to you guys? Sakura asked with great confusion and worry in her voice. Naruto, who kind of looked waterlogged with mud caking his black pants, missing a sandal and minor scorch marks at the bottom of his mask, was unable to find a good excuse. Well, Sasuke was no better. His white pants were dirty and tattered at the edges, his hair a frizzy mess, and the right sleeve missing from his dark long-sleeve shirt. We were on our way here, but then a sinkhole opened up underneath us. Naruto tried to make a plausible excuse. Sakura crossed her arms and gave the both of them an unamused stare. I rather believe Kakashi-sensei's lies over yours. That was pretty terrible, dope. Sasuke seconded. I'll screw the both of you. Sighing like she was talking to a child, Sakura pinched the bridge of her nose. Do the both of you have a change of clothes? We want to give off a good impression. I don't really care about giving off a good impression. Naruto scoffed. For the village, you idiot. If we were to look like a bunch of bums, that would make the other nations look down on us. I don't know about you, but I do not wish to do that. Sasuke filled in for his pink-haired teammate. Thankfully, he planned ahead and had a second pair of clothes in his sealing scroll he bought a few days previously just in case something like this happened. All right, fine. Sakura, give us a few minutes, and we will join you in looking awesome. The black-streaked blonde waved them off irritably before making a beeline for the men's room. 5 minutes later, both Leaf Genin exited the restroom, their clothing replaced and bits of mud or soot washed from their faces. They arrived at their old academy, and honestly, the place had not changed since both Naruto and Sasuke visited the place more than once since they got back from their mission in Wave Country. The entrance was crowded. Genin that were a few years older than them were chatting with old friends. Others were from a few other villages, just hanging around. Quite a turnout. Naruto punched his right fist into his open left hand. I cannot wait to show off just who I am in there. Who easy there? We're first years, remember. Sakura sharply responded to her teammate. She was still nervous about these exams. Two strong teammates, or not, she was still on edge. Let's try and stay low and under the radar. It will be safer that way. Sasuke only scoffed in retort, even if she did make a valid point. Fine, let's just go before the entire building fills up with weaklings. Team 7 did just that, pushing past excited Genin until they entered the familiar hallway where a good lot of them were cloistered together in confusion due to two hard-looking Genin blocking the path to room 301. What the? Is that team guy? Sakura asked her teammates. Yeah, it is. What in the world? Naruto then saw Tenten getting struck across the face by a Genin with a bandage across his nose. It caused the black-streaked blonde to growl behind his mask and advance towards them. It was thanks to Sasuke placing a firm hand on his shoulder to stop him from doing anything rash. Hold it, Dobe. You really think Tenten would allow herself to be struck like that? He asked. Leaning inwards, he whispered to both his teammates. There's a small but minor Genjutsu covering the sign. He had his Sharingan activated to prove his point. This is just another test to weed out the weaklings. You're right. I can sense it as well. Sakura replied, her cheeks flushed by being in close proximity to her crush, but thankfully being professional about it. Damn, Blondie, you got worked up over nothing. The ghost of Ishikawa, Kamizuru, said in his head. Has my favorite Kurashigan user gotten bitten by the love bug over the panda girl? 1. Okay, 1, shut your damn mouth. And 2, I do not like seeing my friends getting hit. If you were still alive and that happened, I would have sucker punched the offender. Ah, you consider me a friend? Well, I am honored. Truly I am. For once, the deceased Kamizuru was not being sarcastic or lazy. He was actually flattered. But still, get your head in the game. All right. Naruto grunted in reply before following Sasuke and Sakura to get away from the cluttered hallway by not so subtly pushing past the two Genin and ignoring the shouts of the cannon fodder. The team passed through a large corridor and arrived at two large oaken doors where their sensei was standing in front of it. Joe, Kakashi greeted them. Kakashi-sensei, what are you doing here? Sakura asked in surprise. Oh, I just wanted to congratulate the three of you for making it past the first trial. The one-eyed Jonin said with his usual eye smile. If you couldn't get past it, then I would have to reconsider your career choice. It was Sasuke that saved that day. I was about to punch those Genin out. Naruto said, giving credit where credit was due. Luckily he stopped you. Those were two Chunin that would have easily stopped you. At least he hoped so. While Naruto had changed quite a bit, he was lacking in experience. And unlike him, Izumo and Kotetsu had plenty. Anyhow, from here on out is the real thing. Try to do well later. Giving them a wave, Kakashi disappeared in a small cloud of smoke. Naruto only grinned underneath his masks. Finally, the real thing. No more bullshit. Grabbing the handles of the door, he pushed them open and were greeted by roughly 100 fellow genin, all glaring a hole into his head. Well, this is a very cold welcome, Naruto said with a chipper voice as he began to leak killing intent from his body. Oomph, how rude of them, Sasuke replied as he began to leak his own killing intent, glaring at the shinobi in front of him. With their combined killing intent, the glare completely tapered off, some even cowering away from the two genin. Both Naruto and Sasuke certainly had the upper hand before a loud, fangirlish shriek destroyed the atmosphere. Satogakuen. The blonde form of one, Ino Yamanaka, flew at the raven-haired Uchiha. Nope. Sasuke stepped to the side, and the Yamanaka heiress hit nothing but air and tumbled onto the unforgiving floor. Naruto burst out laughing when Ino shot up, having a betrayed look on her face. Denied. Troublesome blonde sighed out an exasperated voice. It belonged to no one other than a narrow, brown-eyed genin with his typical bored expression. He wore his shoulder-length black hair tied in a spiky ponytail. His attire consisted of a black pants, a short-sleeved gray jacket with green-edged sleeves, and the Nara clan symbol on the back, under which was green-lined mesh t-shirt. He also wore brown pants, a pair of silver hoop earrings, and wore his blue hitayate around his left arm. He was Shikamaru Nara. And finally standing next to him was a Rotown genin with markings on his cheeks in the form of swirls. Donned in a green, short-sleeved haori with a long, white scarf over a white shirt, with a kanji for food on it. He also wore black shorts, hoop earrings, and bandages around his legs and forearms. His blue hitayate was styled in a manner that allowed 2 tufts of his brown hair to poke out at each side. His name was Choji Akimichi. The two best friends stayed silent to watch the exchange, minus the rumpling of Choji munching on his usual bag of chips. Naruto's exclamation caused the blonde to bristle angrily. Hey, who are you two? Ino trailed off before backpedaling away when she saw the very same mask that scared her some weeks ago, her blue eyes wide open in fear. What are you doing here? My team and I were invited to participate in the exams. Naruto pointed to Konoha's symbol painted on the forehead of his mask. Isn't that right, Sasuke? That's right, Naruto. The Uchiha revealed the name of his masked teammate. Naruto. Ino immediately got to her feet, her eyes blazing in anger from him, scaring her half to death twice. You idiot, I'm going to punch you for scaring me to death. As Ino wound up to deliver a punch to his face, her arm was caught by a very unamused Sasuke Uchiha. His onyx eyes bored into her blue ones, and his grip tightened around her wrist. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Yamanaka. My teammate does not like to be hit by anyone and will retaliate in earnest. If you don't believe me, ask Sakura. Aiwa. Ino looked over to her former best friend and saw the Pinkette nod in reply. The last time she laid a hand on Naruto, she got headbutt for her troubles, and that was going to be the last time she did it. Orders from her mother be damned. Ino looked over to Naruto and found him glaring daggers at her. She instinctively shrunk back and shook her arm free of her crush. You chose wisely, Naruto said. Yeah, gotta go Kropka. Backing away, the young Yamanaka made her way back to her team and didn't even look back. Well, it seems you might have one less fangirl, Naruto lightly commented as he smirked underneath his masks. Keep hanging out with me, and you might get rid of them for good. I may very well take you up on that offer, Sasuke lightly said. Well, looky here, the Rookie 9 are all together. A boisterous voice caused the three to look over. The voice belonged to Kiba Inuzuka, a young man with animalistic features that included sharp black eyes with vertical slit-like pupils, messy brown hair, pronounced canine teeth, and red fang marking on his cheeks. He wore a blue striped hitayate upon his head, grayish pants reaching to his calves, and a gray, hooded fur-lined coat, with a hood usually placed on his head. Resting inside his coat was a small white puppy with brown ears, and the fur on the top of his head styled to resemble a mohawk. Trailing behind him was the tallest member of their graduating class. He had dark, bushy, brown hair that was held up by his hitayate, and sporting the extremely unique style of his clan, consisting of dark sunglasses and a sea green jacket with a high, upturned collar to conceal the lower half of his face, along with dark brown pants. He was Shino Aburaim. Following behind him was a young woman with fair skin and pupilless white eyes with tinges of lavender. She wore her dark blue hair, the same hairstyle Naruto remembered from when they were children. It was kept in a Heim cut, kept just above her forehead with chin-length strands framing her face. She wore a cream-colored hooded jacket with a fire symbol on the upper sleeves and fur around the cuffs and hem. Along with this, she also wore navy blue pants and kept her hitayate around her neck. She was Hinata Hyuga. Seeing their once familiar orange traffic cone missing, Kiba sniffed the air to find his old trouble making friend before turning his attention towards the one in the mask. A feral smirk came to his face as he made his way over to his location. Naruto, I did not recognize you. I like the new duds. Thank you, Kiba. It's nice to be noticed. Naruto replied with a grin behind his mask and shook his friend's hand. How are you doing? Doing well, kicked some ass, took some names. The feral Jinin boasted. A lot of D-rank missions, huh? The black-streaked, blonde deadpanned. Ugh, far too many. Kiba hung his head in response. Kiba has complained about this on a daily basis. How I know this, you ask? Because I had to live through it. Shino butted in, much to his teammates' displeasure. Sounds like a certain someone I know. Sasuke turned his attention to his not-so-subtle teammate. Bite me, team. Bite yourself, dope. Well, now aren't you the noisy ones? Once again, Naruto moved his head to meet a new speaker. He was a much older genin with onyx eyes and ash-gray hair, kept in a neat ponytail and black-rimmed circular glasses. He was wearing a dark purple shirt with a high collar, a white undershirt, and dark purple pants with a white cloth waistband. He also wore dark purple, fingerless gloves with armored plates on the back of the hands and a blue hitate resting on his forehead. And who the hell are you? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Oh, where are my manners? The man said with a smile on his face. My name is Kabuto Yukushi, and I am a veteran of these exams. Kabuto greeted himself as he pushed his glasses up to the bridge of his nose. A veteran? What is that supposed to mean to us? Choji asked, stopping his snacking long enough to ask his question. Well, this is my 7th exam, and take my word, it can be deceptively hard. He replied in gloomy manner. My first exam was in Earth Country. My team and 50 others were to navigate through a cave system, collect the gold and silver ore, and fight our way out. That doesn't sound too hard, Ino pointed out. There were only 6 of each, and my team nearly got melted by the Sandaime Tsuchikage's granddaughter who stole it from us. He lightly rubbed his right arm at the memory. Then in Lightning Country's exam, the weather screwed us over in the second exam. And in my last exam in Earth Country, once again we were to go into a volcano, and my team barely escaped with our lives. He's right about that, dude. Ishikawa commented in Naruto's subconscious. That seriously happens? Naruto dared to ask. Oh yeah, I think I remember my cousin doing something like that. But be wary, this guy is making me uneasy. You uneasy? But you're dead. Exactly, man. I'm dead, and he is making me uneasy. That means something. Listen, I don't know what he's all about. Just keep a close eye on him, all right? And do not be afraid to use Jay, his lazy, but need to do something other than sticking to the furball's cage. Don't shorten my name, Yunin Jin. I am the mighty Jugen, and I will be treated with respect. Jugen bellowed at the ghostly Kamizuru. And don't you dare call me a furball. I will destroy you. Kyuubi also barked out from the disrespect shown to him. Oh yeah? What are you going to do about it, huh? In Naruto's head, Ishikawa turned his back towards the cage, far out of Kyuubi's reach, pulled his pants down, bent over, and began slapping his bare ass. I'm dead, motherfuckers. You can't do anything to adet man? Na. He then turned his head towards the two, pulled his right eyelid down, and stuck his tongue out in a juvenile manner. How am I saying again? Naruto asked himself before shutting down the link. He did not want to see that. Now, normally I don't do this, but since you 9 are new, I figured I would give you all a helping hand. Reaching into his hip pouch, Kabuto pulled out a stack of orange cards with the kanji symbol for shinobi on the back. My exams may have ended in me failing to become a chunin, but I succeeded in gathering information. What kind of information? Hinata asked. Vital information. Allow me to demonstrate. Picking up the top card from his stack, Kabuto channeled some of his chakra into it and laid it before the genin. Appearing on the card was a small map of the continent regarding the 5 great powers. All I need to do is add a tiny bit of chakra and the information I gathered appears. And I have information on almost everybody here. Just give me their description, the village they are from, or even how they wear their hitates will help me out. Both Naruto and Sasuke gave each other a curious glance. While Iruka's lectures were boring to the point of falling asleep, he did instill at least one rule that they remembered. If something seemed too good, it probably was. The other rookies seemed enthralled by the promise of information. The only exceptions seemed to have been Shikamaru and Hinata, but they weren't about to make a move. So it was Naruto who broke the ice and thumbed towards a rain team that had been giving them the stink since the moment they walked into the room. How about those guys from Amage Cure? Not my first choice, but sure, I'll show you. Picking up 3 cards, Kabuto channeled some of his chakra into them. Then he placed them onto the floor, showing their pictures, teammates, and known stats. Team Shigure, as they are unofficially called. This is their 3rd exam, and they have participated in 70 D-rank missions and 30 C-rank missions. Their leader Shigure has been wounded at least 2 times, causing them to fail their previous exams. Then how about Gaara of the Desert? Sasuke asked. An ally? Well, let me see. Picking up another card, the older genin repeated the process and revealed Gaara's picture, his teammates, and stats. Well, he is on the same team as his older siblings. He personally has done 8 C-ranked and... Kabuto blinked and looked at the card more carefully. It says he has done 1 B-ranked mission, and he has returned from every mission without a scratch. Without a scratch? Naruto murmured to himself. That sounded off to him. No one their age came back from a mission without a scratch, especially a B-rank mission. Sasuke was a perfect example. During their first B-rank mission, he got clipped in the head by an axe, and Lee got his stomach nicked. Both were considered prodigies, Sasuke having natural talent, Lee of hard work. And yet both of them got injured. That meant something about Gaara wasn't right or natural. Is that all? Or is there more you want to know? Kabuto asked with a raised eyebrow. I got something. Kiba smirked in reply. I want everything you got on Sasuke, Uchiha. What? Kiba, you bastard. Why would you want to know anything about me? Sasuke demanded. Because if I want to get promoted to Chunin, I will have to be prepared for anything, and that includes you, pretty boy. You might as well include Naruto as well, especially with his recent changes. Shikamaru smartly replied for his own benefit. Clever boy, Ishikawa remarked with approval. Didn't I cut you off? No. Fuck. Well, I certainly cannot say no to such a request. Once again, picking up 2 cards and burning his chakra into them, Kabuto revealed the information on them, much to the 2 genins' displeasure. Sasuke Uchiha. Rank, genin. He's done 15 D-rank, 1 C-rank, and even a joint B-rank mission. He excels in ninjutsu, recently has become above average with taijutsu, and is a basic practitioner in Kusarigama Jutsu. Special notes. Only survivor of the Uchiha massacre. Kabuto gave Sasuke an apologetic smile before reading Naruto's off. And here we have Naruto Uzumaki. Rank, genin. Like his teammate, he has done the exact amount of missions, and is also proficient in ninjutsu, and well above average in taijutsu, but has no genjutsu to speak of, Hadada first, and is at least a novice in the art of kenjutsu. Special notes. He seems to be talented with earth-based ninjutsu, managed to bring at least 3 infamous people into the village, and killed B-ranked, missing Nin, Hachi, Dokabura. Yikes. Yikes in freaking deed. Haku, Zabuza, and the 2 idiots are classified until further notice. Something is not right with this guy. Naruto mentally fumed as he ignored stunned looks from his fellow genin. One last question. What can you tell me who those guys in camo are? Oh, the ones with the musical notes. Kabuto channeled his last 3 cards to show that they were surprisingly barren of any useful information. I'm sorry, I don't seem to have much on them. All I know is that they hail from a new village that just popped up a few years ago called Otogeikure in Rice Country. So I guess that means we should not expect much from such a minor weak village. Barely after he finished his sentence, a kunai was flung at the older genin, causing him to jump away. Then he was attacked by what the remaining genin thought was a mummy, threw a punch at him with his right arm. He missed, but they all saw a strange device on his arm, and Kabuto's glasses shattered, and he fell to the floor where he lost his lunch with his right ear, bleeding sluggishly. We heard you talking about our village leaf scum. The mummy man said, his one exposed eye glaring at them. Perhaps this will teach you not to mess with the shinobi of Odogakure. With the room already full of high tension about to erupt into violence, 11 large clouds of smoke erupted to dispel any fighting about to happen, revealing 10 men in gray jumpers and one Ibiki Marino. That is enough, you worthless maggots. Ibiki barked at the genin, his scarred visage glaring at the sound team. There will be no fighting until deemed otherwise. Failure to comply will get your asses kicked out of this exam faster than those with the quick-release bloodline. Is that understood? Sorry, it's our first time. Guess we're a little jumpy, sir. The mummy genin apologized. Make sure it does not happen again. Now follow me. Your first exam is about to begin. It's about time. Sasuke commented. Yeah, I'm going to kick so much ass. Kiba punched his right fist into his open left palm. Not as much as me, Naruto proclaimed. And then some. The Jonin lounge. So how do you think they're doing? Asuma Sarutobi asked. He was a tall man, with brown eyes, olive skin, short black spiky hair, and a beard. His clothing consisted of a standard Konoha ninja uniform with the sleeves rolled up halfway, green flak jacket, regular black shinobi sandals, and Hittite on his forehead. Curiously, he also wore a gray sash that had the kanji for fire marked on it around his waist, a pair of black bangles, and bandages wrapped around the arms of his sleeves. I believe they will succeed past the first round, Guy exclaimed, his powerful voice making the room shake a bit. I know my team will pass with their flames of Y-dash. A gloved hand covered his mouth, and the bored face of Kakashi silently shushed him with his single finger. Thank you, Kakashi. I was not ready for him yet. The son of the Sandame thanked his silver-haired friend as he took a pack of cigarettes out from his pouch. Want one? He offered to Kakashi, only to get a blank stare from the masked Jonin in response. Man, more for me. Ugh. Asuma, I honestly hate that filthy habit of yours, said Kurenai Yuhi, the ice queen of Konoha and resident Genjutsu mistress. She was a fair-skinned woman of slender build, had long black untamed hair reaching her upper back, and very unique eyes that are red in color, with an additional ring in them. She wore makeup consisting of red lipstick and purple eyeshadow. Her outfit was unusual, consisting of a red mesh armor blouse with only the right sleeve visible and bandages with a pattern on it similar to those of rose thorns. Her hands and upper thighs were also wrapped in bandages, and she wore the Konoha Hittite proudly on her forehead in regular black shinobi sandals. It runs in my family. My old man smokes worse than a chimney stack, Asuma smoothly replied as he lit his cigarette and inhaled. Animal. If I didn't know any better, I swear you two were acting like an old married couple, Kakashi lightly said, causing the two to blink and flush scarlet. Absurd, Kurenai said. Ya ditto, Asuma seconded. Feeling quite uncomfortable, a Jonin sensei with short, sandy brown hair and dark eyes. He wore square-shaped glasses along with the standard Konohanin inclusive of flak jacket, Hittite, and sandals. The shirt he wore underneath his flak jacket came all the way up to his chin, cleared his throat. So, did you hear that they brought in Ibiki Marino for the first exam? Ibiki, Kakashi questioned. Imiki, Guy's voice was thankfully muffled by Kakashi's hand. A lot of those kids are screwed, Asuma said after exhaling a breath full of smoke through his nostrils. Kurenai, however, looked confused. Ibiki? What are you all worried about? Oh yeah, that's right. You're a relatively new Jonin and haven't heard about him, Kakashi lightly commented. Ibiki Marino is the head of the Konoha torture and interrogation force. The man is considered a master of the mind, using mental methods to make his victims crack like eggs. This is a valued art because, unlike physical torture where they give you false information to make the pain stop, if you break them mentally, they will tell you everything you want to know. Asuma inhaled from his cigarette once again. Now I am worried about those kids. But isn't that a little extreme? They're just children, Kurenai exclaimed. We were children once too, Guy said after removing Kakashi's hand from his mouth. We just gotta trust in them, otherwise we might have no Genin team to come back to us. Back with the various teams, Ibiki had them draw from various lots and were seated at desks. Some like Kankuro and Temari were seated far away from Gaara, considered themselves lucky. Then there were people like Shino who were unluckily sitting next to members from a sound team. And then there were very fortunate people like Naruto sitting next to Hinata. When they were all seated, Ibiki spoke the rules of their assignment. Open your ears because I'm only going to say this once. My associates will be handing out some papers with 10 questions, 9 on the front and 1 on the back. Do not do the 10th question until I say so. Secondly, there will be no cheating. If we catch you 3 times, your ass is booted from this exam. And thirdly, your entire team must at least score 1 point each. If even one of your teammates scores a 0, then your team is booted out of here. And questions. Not giving them any time to even raise their hands, Ibiki continued. Good? Good. Now begin. Immediately, the Genin teams put their pencils to paper. When Naruto looked at the questions, he began to sweat underneath his masks. What the unholy shit is up with these questions? None of this was covered in the academy, and Kakashi-sensei has done jack regarding something of this caliber. Ishikawa know anything about this? Oh, nope, sorry dude. My first exam was in Lightning Country, where I literally wiped the floor with the competition through straight battle tests. I left my teammates in the dust and became Chunin on my first try. Ishikawa replied with a shrug of his shoulders. Well, a mind helping me out by spying on the competition? Sorry, Blondie, but I'm not going to help you cheat that way. Cheat some other way, man. You're a smart guy. Yay, perfect. After communicating with a dead Chunin in his head, Naruto went back to looking at his blank test. The first thing he did was write his name, and then began lightly tapping his pencil on the paper irritably. While Naruto was having his mini freakout, the rest of his fellow Genin were either excelling or flunking out. Barely 10 minutes and 7 teams were eliminated because they were caught cheating. Several individuals, however, were cheating beautifully. Sasuke was using his Sharingan to copy the arm movements of a very knowledgeable male Genin. Kiba was using Akamaru perched on his head to relay information, while Shino was using a common housefly to steal from the competition. Ino herself used the mind possession jutsu to take hold of Sakura, who used her book knowledge to write down over half the answers, and used it to possess her teammates and write down the answers. For Team Guy, Niji used his Byakugan to gain the answers from Sasuke, while Tenten used a complex set of mirrors and wires to steal her information from her competition and relay it to Lee. For the Genin from other villages, they used their own methods to gather answers. Gaara used his sand to create an eyeball to spy. Kankuro used an excuse to go to the bathroom, and one of the proctors came with him, only to reveal itself to be a puppet in disguise, which he used the information he gathered to hand off to Temari. The sound Genin, however, focused their hearing the tapping of pencils for answers. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Fuck these answers. And fuck you, Ibiki, for throwing them at me. Naruto mentally cursed out, much to the amusement of the 3 guests within his head. There was a simple way to do it, but they were enjoying the idiot sweat a bit until he figured out. Naruto-kun. A soft voice whispered to him. Moving his eyes to the right, Naruto looked over to see Hinata looking at him. He knew it was taking all her will to do so, thanks to the unlocked memories he had regarding her. Yeah. I have a few in Swerves. You can copy them if you want to. She managed to stutter out. The black-streaked blonde's eyes widened in surprise. She was willing to risk her own advancement for him. It caused his heart to skip a step, and he was almost tempted to take her offer. But then suddenly he forced it down into his gut. There was absolutely no way he was going to jeopardize her advancement. Definitely not like this. Thanks, but I can't do that to you. I'd rather fail than have you kicked out, because of you helped me. He thanked her, but politely declined her offer. I just got to find a way to get even a single answer, but that involves using eyes like yours. Without warning, Naruto violently face planted onto the desk, cracking the edge of it. Uzumaki, get your head up and don't destroy my table. Ibiki barked at him. Sorry, I just realized how much of an idiot I am. Bringing his head up, he whispered to the girl next to him. I owe you one, much to her embarrassment. Oi, Juggin, are you there? Where else would I be? The sentient I growled out in irritation. What do you want? You said I could do almost anything with you. Is there a chance I can get an ability to spy on people? About time you asked the right question. The remote viewing does allow you to spy on people or object from vast distances, see into houses, caves, and whatnot, and even hear conversations from miles away. A littler experimentation could cause you to spy on anyone in this room if you're willing to suffer the headache. Ah, damn it, another headache? Will this happen with every ability? Only if you don't use them. What was it that ugly bug-eyed Ninjin told you? Practice, practice, practice. Juggin did a horrible impression of Lee, but the sentient, I believe it got its message through to its host. 2. All right, I will practice with you more when I get the chance. But thanks, Juggin. I really appreciate it. Not another word was spoken, and Naruto closed his normal eyes and opened his third eye, hidden underneath his hitate and his mask. He at first saw nothing but the solid walls, but slowly he reined it in until he was viewing the ceiling. He slowly turned it upside down until he was viewing the heads of his fellow genin. He moved his line of sight side to side until spotting the mummy man and zoomed in. His paper was half full, just enough for him to cheat off of. Releasing the remote viewing, Naruto let out a jolted sigh and began rubbing his temples. Ouch, that hurt, he complained before opening both eyes. He only remembered one answer, and that was enough. The test came to an end 1 minute later, reaching the 45-minute mark, causing many to sigh out in relief. So it seems we got ourselves some very good bookworms, or some very crafty cheaters. Almost the entire room flinched at that, causing the scary man to smirk. Well now, I got something for you little bastards. The 10th question. Almost every heartbeat ceased to exist when he said that. But first I got one more rule to impose on all of you. You must choose to accept or reject this question. If you reject it, then your team loses all the points you earned up till now, and your team will fail immediately. But then what was the point? Why would anyone reject the question? Temari demanded. A sadistic, malevolent grin formed on the proctor's scarred face. Because if you accept and take the question and get it wrong, well, then you will never be able to take the Chunin exams ever again, and you worthless maggots will be stuck as genin for the rest of your lives. The entire room reeled back in outrage and surprise. Ino stood up, flabbergasted. But we know there are people who have failed several times, but they always get a chance at the next one. Sucks to be you. This is my first year as a proctor, and what I say goes. So, who is willing to risk everything in order to advance? For several long, breathless seconds, nobody moved, let alone dared to breathe. This determined their lives. If they screwed up, they would kiss their careers goodbye. A genin team from Konoha stood up, and his head hung in shame. He said, "I'm sorry, guys, but I just can't do it." Then another got to his feet, apologizing to his teammates. Then several more rose. One even had to be escorted out by his teammates because he was bawling like a baby. Naruto looked over and saw Hinata shaking like a leaf. Her own hand was ready to be raised, and so were several others. Gritting his teeth, he shot up to his feet, knocking his chair over, and pointed at the proctor. "Bring it on, Scarface. I am not afraid to take a stupid answer. You do know that you are betting your career on this single answer. I don't give a flying damn if I remain a genin for the rest of my life. I'll become stronger regardless, and take the high-ranking missions to show my worth." He gave the proctor a glare from behind his mask. "I do not believe you for a second. You don't have any authority to prevent someone from taking the test again. This is above your rank and station." Or is it? Ibiki lightly cracked his knuckles in response. "Care to wager your life on it?" "You bet I am. Now quit jerking us off and tell us the damn question." For a full minute, Ibiki said nothing. He glared at the masked hoodlum before a smirk came to his face. "Well then, for all those remaining, you pass." That caused nearly everyone to scream out in surprise. "What the hell do you mean we pass?" Sasuke demanded. "You passed. Becoming Chunin is doing much more than having book smarts. It is also gathering information by unconventional means." 3 Chunin got out of their seats and waved at the genin with smug smiles on their faces. "And if you were caught, well, worse things could happen to you other than getting kicked out of an exam." Ibiki then removed his bandana to reveal his scarred bald head that was full of burns, cuts, and screw holes. As Chunin, you must be prepared to face consequences of your choices and actions. One screw-up could get you and your entire squad killed, or worse. This is why I made you face a choice. Sure, you could try again next time, but sometimes you got to take a risk to have a better reward. Ibiki then obscured his head and smiled at those who passed. And it is because of this I proudly draw the first part of these exams to a close. Congratulations! The Genin cheered, many in glee, others in relief. But Ibiki mentally counted to 3 before a black ball blasted through the windows, unrolled with 2 kunai attached to ropes pinned into the opposing walls to reveal the words Anko Mitarashi, second examiner on them, and the woman herself standing in front of the banner. Congratulations on passing, you maggots. I'm your second proctor, Anko Mitarashi, your absolute worst nightmare. She greeted the stunned Genin. You're late, Anko. Ibiki deadpanned as he moved her banner out of the way to reveal himself, much to the younger woman's displeasure. Don't give me that, Ibiki. You're making me sound like Kakashi. She barked in a very Naruto-like response, making many of the Rookie 9 sweat drop. And what's with all the brats? I count 26 3-man teams. Are you losing your touch? We have a surprising amount of outstanding candidates this year. The larger man simply said, well, I will cut them in half by the next exam. Follow me, midgets. Anko then jumped out the window with a joyful laugh. Please don't jump out the window. Use the stairs. Ibiki gritted out at the confused Chunin hopefuls. After Anko and the 26 3-man teams left to head to their destination, one that caused the older man to feel mighty sorry for them. Anko was a good girl most of the time, highly unusual, playful, but professional, but she also had a sadistic side that made tortures urinate themselves when she came in to gather information. Ibiki decided to gather the papers, while the test itself was to prove if they had the guts to advance. He always liked to see if there were any worth taking note of as a, let's just say, personal interest. Already he looked at those that came from Rice Country, the Genin teams from Wind Country, and even those from Amage Cure. Some showed talent that would need to be watched, others not so much. The ones from his villages were also the same. Some showed promise, but others not so much. He personally knew many of them would not be invited to join the Umbu Black Ops by their Kage if the time ever came. When he got to Naruto's, he raised an eyebrow. The answer he gave was incomplete. It was intelligently written before it trailed off and said the 2 words "fuck it," causing him to laugh. Naruto Uzumaki, you got some brass balls on you. Ibiki said before his eyes trailed down to the bottom of the page where he silently read something is not right about Kabuto. He has these info card with a lot of information regarding many Genin in the room. So far he has information about some rain team. Those sound guys, Gaara of the desert, Sasuke, and myself, including the information concerning 3 demons known only to few and not the general public. Eyebrows slightly raised in alarm. Ibiki filed the paper away and continued collecting the rest until he came across Sasuke's. His paper had more answers than Uzumaki's, but his message was almost exactly the same, detailing about the 3 demons yet to be released to the public. Once was a fluke, twice was a coincidence. But as the head of the torture and interrogation force, he could not overlook this. After collecting the rest of the papers, he left to start an investigation after reporting his findings to the Hokage. After the Chunin hopefuls followed their second proctor outside, they traveled for a bit until every team stood outside a giant metallic fence with 44 gates equally spread around it. Behind the gates were giant, ominous trees that shrouded the area in utter blackness. Anko smiled at the midgets who had the guts to follow her. Welcome to Training Ground 44, otherwise known as the Forest of Death. It is here you will take your second exam. A decent lot of the participants loudly gulped seeing such an ominous forest, some Leaf Shinobi seeing it for the first time, and surprised such a thing was in their backyard. Only 2 out of the entire Leaf Genin populace who were not scared were of course the 2 who had been training in there for several weeks. They knew most of that forest like the back of their hand. Naruto and Sasuke could not wait to get back in their element. Before we begin, I have some news for you. Snapping her fingers, one of the proctors in gray uniforms appeared with a stack of papers and some pens. Before we continue, I need all of you to sign these release forms. Release forms? What the hell for? A genin from Sunagakure asked. For the forest, you little idiot. If you die in there, these forms release us from any blame if you get impaled on a kunai or eaten by one of the animals in there. Anko replied with a slight smirk on her face. Now form a single line or beat it. Either way, I don't care. Surprisingly, it took only 10 minutes for the Genin teams, after some encouragement, of course, to more or less sign their lives away. After that, Anko presented them with the Heaven and Earth scrolls, stating that it was essential and that they were to not be opened at any cost. Failure to show up at the tower in the middle of the forest without them was an automatic fail. To not show up in the 5-day period was also an automatic fail, or those who had a teammate die would not advance either. Nothing more needed to be said. The Genin went to their station gates, and when a whistle was blown, the gates opened, signaling the start of the second exams. Are you sure you know where you guys are going? Sakura asked her teammates a few hours later. Of course we do, we're awesome. Naruto replied with juggins, I opened to lead the way and look out for any danger. Yeah, he was still getting a headache, but it toned down from the first time, and with each passing hour was hurting less and less. If you say so, Dobe, Sasuke replied. Every so often he shifted his eyes to his right hip pouch where their heaven scroll resided. Suddenly Naruto stopped dead in his tracks and held up his right hand to stop them. Naruto, what is it? Sakura asked. Gotta drain the lizard, the black-streaked blonde replied, causing his two teammates to drop their heads, and he ran off. Kami, he's such an idiot at times. Sakura huffed when he left. What would you prefer, him acting like this, or the killer at the camp? Sasuke smoothly replied. The pinkette had to swallow some bile that crept into her throat. Even now, she couldn't stomach the images from the camp where she took her first lives. I don't want to talk about that. Barely 30 seconds later, they heard a rustle in the bushes, and the body of a yellow-clad shinobi flew out and impacted a tree. He let out a hitched breath before slowly sliding downwards, and Naruto came walking out whistling a merry tune. Can you believe that guy? He tried getting the drop on me with my pants down. What an asshole. Did he have a scroll? Sasuke asked. Nah, afraid not. That was the reason I threw him. Unnecessary, but I guess he deserved it. Come on, let's go. No sooner than Sasuke had finished his sentence and the team was jumping through the trees again, a violent burst of wind struck the three Genin with violent force and sent them all flying away. Both Sasuke and Sakura were lucky enough to land near each other. Naruto, however, was unlucky enough to get swallowed by a gigantic snake in mid-flight. Oh, son of a bitch. I cannot believe I got eaten by a snake. Naruto barked out in displeasure. Well, you know what they say about snakes. Ishikawa said that they're a bunch of assholes and slimy on the inside. Well, yeah, but guess where else snakes come from? Orochimaru. Bingo. Now one of your targets is here. What are you going to do? I'm getting out of this damn snake for starters. Mentally communicating with Juggin, the sentient eyeball fired the darkness beam, and it cut through the gigantic serpent. Naruto tumbled through the opening and landed on the forest floor covered in slime as the snake began disintegrating in the black flames. I hate snakes, he hissed through his masks. Shame on you, our master loves them, a harsh, raspy voice said. The hair on the back of his neck rising, Naruto immediately went on alert and saw two people resting on the trees. One wore a gray robe and tattered cloak to cover most of his body, black pants, and shinobi sandals. He had a very mean-looking face, and his head was mostly covered by a straw hat with a talisman that hung off the side that read death. The second wore an open gray yukata with fishnet armor that went to the middle of his forearms, black gloves, and pants and sandals. He wore a white rope belt around his waist. His straw hat was hung around his neck to reveal a bald head and disturbing mask that looked to be made from either bone or bark. I assume you mean Orochimaru. Tell me, what business does the Snake Sannin have here? Naruto demanded. I'm afraid you will be departing to the underworld before you find out. The tattered cloak wearing Genin unsheathed a kunai from under his cloak and darted towards the slime-covered former full blonde. Glaring at his opponent, Naruto immediately flipped away and placed his fingers into the familiar cross seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. He hollered out as 5 copies of him appeared in 5 clouds of smoke. All 6 Narutos then activated their Kurashigan and began watching his movements. His opponent growled and threw his kunai, which was deflected by a clone who unsheathed Handen Ryoka to block it. "It's going to take a lot more than that to defeat me," the clone exclaimed. "Well, then maybe I got something else for you." Reaching under his cloak, Naruto's opponent procured an ordinary-looking flute. "Allow me to play you a song of death." Immediately, his fingers began moving along the holes in the flute, and a haunting melody began playing. Naruto and his closes soon felt their bodies becoming heavier and extremely hard to move. Immediately, he suspected it to be some sort of Jin jutsu. He moved to bite his lip to break the technique, but stopped. If he played the fool, then maybe he could get the drop on the bastard. The disguised grass shinobi finished playing his melody and smirked before turning towards his teammate. "See, I knew it was going to be easy." The masked shinobi crossed his arms and said nothing. "Oomph, you were never much a talker." Taking out another kunai, the flute wielder sauntered up to Naruto and his clones. "That smoke trick really made me lose track of you. Let's see which is the real one." Without a word, he placed his kunai at the throat of the one who had his sword out and slit it. It disappeared in a cloud of smoke, causing Naruto to smirk. His opponent, however, was unamused. "Lucky, but I got 5 more tries, and I don't usually need a third time." He then made his way over to another paralyzed Naruto and placed his kunai against his throat. Before he could move it an inch, the Narutos around him erupted into a large cloud of smoke, completely blinding him. He inhaled the smoke, coughing and wheezing in discomfort. The sound of a clicking noise alerted him. A sharp pain erupted in his forehead, and then he felt no more. When the smoke cleared, it revealed the Naruto he had his kunai poised for the kill was the real one, and one of the Shodaime Tsuchikage bracers had its deadly blade lodged in his forehead. It was a quick and relatively easy kill for the current onlooker. The masked genin uncrossed his arms and nodded his head. "Thank you for ridding me of that annoyance. It seems the fabled Shin clan was nothing but trash." 1. Shin clan. Slowly the body slid backwards and the blade caught onto the skin. With a look of surprise that was animated by his mask, his dead opponent's face was skewered onto his weapon. When the body landed on the ground, it revealed a man with a pallid complexion. He had long black hair, which framed his face, and his confused black eyes were wide in alarm as the light faded from them. "Oh, Cammy, that is so gross." "You. Clever. Ah." The figure in front of him only shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly. They were a potential clan eager to join my master's village. Their leader himself willingly came along to get a place in Oto Geikure. But if he was easily killed by the likes of you, then his clan deserves the same fate. It was a waste to kill this genin team for him to come along with. "You're the one who killed this grass team? Just to sneak into the forest? For what?" Naruto demanded as he grabbed the face with his opposite hand, retracted the hidden blade, and then tossing it to the forest floor. "Those matters do not concern you. They are only for Orochimaru-sama, and Orochimaru-sama alone," the masked man calmly said, without a trace of remorse for his actions. "Dude, be careful," Ishikawa said with caution in his voice. "I don't know what this dude's damage is, but he's a strong one. I can tell it in his body language." "Body language? Come on, Blondie, get with the program. He's relaxed, sure, but that is nothing more than a ruse. He's ready to strike like a very pissed-off viper. I bet you all my ghost money that he has a jutsu ready as we speak." Ignoring the comment of ghost money and why the hell a ghost would need any form of currency, Naruto set his activated eyes on his opponent. "Let me guess. You're not going to allow me to leave, are you?" "Not unless you wish to serve Orochimaru-sama," the man replied. "That is a no then." Slowly unsheathing his katana, Naruto readied himself. "Before we get down to this, mind revealing your real face? It just feels super creepy fighting someone with another guy's face on his face." The masked shinobi paused, almost in thought. This is acceptable. First slipping his gloves off and tossing them to the forest floor, he then grabbed the sides of his face and peeled it off like a snake shedding his skin. In a very disgusting display of flesh ripping, he tossed the ruined ball of what used to be a person's actual face to the side. Naruto's opponent was revealed to have pale skin, vivid green eyes, masculine facial features, two scarlet dots on his forehead above his eyebrows with red markings under his eyes, and shoulder-length white hair, which he wore divided down the middle on his head with two separate partings on either side of his face. He also wore two red, tube-like hair ornaments, one on both sides of his head, securing two locks of his white hair. Holy shit, Naruto muttered out in surprise. He remembered those markings from one of the books his clones read. A Kagaya. So, you heard of my clan? He remarked with a raised eyebrow. Somewhat. It was said you guys had this remarkable Kekkei Jinkai called the Shikatsumiako Dead Bone Pulse, but not many of you could use it to its full potential. And you were completely wiped out years ago when you attacked Kirigakure. Wiped out to the last man, woman, and child. I'm the last of my kind. The last Kagaya said, closing his eyes before calmly stating, all of that is inconsequential. Well then, can you at least give me a name to go with that mug of yours? I'd rather not just call you Guy or Kagaya, Naruto said, gripping the hilt of his sword tightly. Kimimaro, that is my name. Tell that to the Shinigami once you see him. You will be surprised what I can say to him. Without another word, Kimimaro's shoulder opened up to reveal the humorous bone. Without a wince or blink of an eyelash, the bone slowly rose up out of his shoulder, revealing red muscle mass and blood dripping down his shoulder. Then, gripping it, the Kagaya ripped the bone out to reveal a short, bone-hilted bone sword. His arm went slack for a brief second before the missing bone and skin grew back. Dance of the Camellia. Oh my Kami, that is so hardcore. Naruto blinked once, and Kimimaro was gone from his spot and in his personal space, his bone sword thrusting out to impale him. The Kurashigan user barely managed to deflect it with Handen Ryoku. Kimimaro swiped to the left. Naruto barely managed to sidestep. A sudden swipe upwards nicked him in his right bicep. Another thrust was parried, but the sharp bone cut through his side, cutting nothing but his vest and nicking the fishnet chainmail under it. Naruto then grabbed his arm and began to fire the darkness beam at his opponent to quickly end the fight, but Kimimaro harshly cracked his head against the mask. The Kurashigan user's head violently snapped backwards as a resounding crack echoed throughout the area. Kimimaro then brought his right foot up, kicking his opponent harshly and sent him flying. He watched as Naruto slammed through two trees before tumbling in the dirt where he belonged. Naruto harshly coughed when the air entered his lungs, his eyes wide behind his mask. Kimimaro was fast. He could barely keep up. The man was clearly a taijutsu master, bordering on Guy's level. Maybe. He couldn't fight him up front, at least not yet. So Naruto turned tail and ran. Kimimaro narrowed his eyes at his retreating opponent. Trash ninja, he muttered before bounding after him. They took to the trees, the landscape whizzing by them as they ran at rapid speeds. The Kagaya raised his left hand, thumb bent, the tips of his four extending fingers peeled back. Digital shrapnel, for bone bullets, shot out from his fingers, spinning through the air. Naruto looked back and barely had time to judge the arc of the bullets with his dojutsu and dodge them. He then watched as the bone bullets blasted through the tree to the point he could see directly through it. Holy shit, this is so not good. He panted out in alarm. Well-made vest or not, that would have gone completely through him. Naruto continued to flee, forcing chakra into his limbs to go faster. The former full-blown ducked and darted through trees, trying to lead his opponent to a spot where he could have the advantage. Kimimaro's eyes narrowed in slight annoyance. He didn't know what his opponent was planning, but he knew he was leading him somewhere for a more tactical advantage. This cannot be allowed. Bringing his left hand into a fist and then extending his index finger and thumb to take shape of a pistol, the last Kagaya took aim and fired his bone bullet from his finger. Before Naruto knew what hit him, a sharp pain struck his right leg in midair. When he landed on his destined tree branch, his leg buckled, and he fell to the forest floor, hitting multiple branches along the way until he landed face first onto the ground. Slowly, he turned over and looked at where he was hit. Immediately, he felt the flaring pain running up his leg. Kimimaro's technique struck him square in the thigh and created a see-through hole where so much blood was leaking out of it. As his opponent landed in front of him, Naruto didn't waste any time trying to back away, leaving an impressive blood streak in his wake. You made me chase you quite a ways, but in the end it was foolish to try and fight me. Kimimaro said in an even voice. With each step he took, Naruto continued to drag himself away until his back rested against a tree. That seemed appropriate for a leaf shinobi to die against a tree, in his opinion. He watched as the former blonde raised his sword against him, and he in response threw his bone sword, catching him in the wrist and pinning his right hand, sword and all against the trunk of the tree. The last Kagaya then pulled another bone sword from his shoulder and felt the missing humerus bone grow back in a span of 10 seconds. Goodbye, trash ninja. Despite all the pain flowing through him, Naruto laughed loudly. Hey asshole, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, not Trash Ninja. And I got you right where I wanted you, you jerk. All that blood summoned them. Looking to where Kimimaro was standing in the bloody dirt, the light sounds of the trees rustling were the only warning before they came along. Suddenly leeches, 24 of the giant bloodsuckers, descended where Kimimaro was standing. Their sharp teeth latched onto his flesh and slowly began draining the blood from his body. Naruto lightly smirked under his masks. One of those giant bastards could suck all the blood out of a healthy man in less than a minute. 24 on Kimimaro? He would be lucky to last even 10 seconds. Dozens of sharp bones erupted from Kimimaro's body, impaling the leeches with deadly accuracy. The nasty blood-sucking worms let out a pained screech before expiring. The bones then retracted, and the bloodsuckers fell to the forest floor. Kimimaro was openly glaring at Naruto now, covered in green gore and his outfit full of new holes. Dance of the Larch, he coldly stated. Shit. Naruto wasn't the only one having a difficult time. After they were separated, both Sasuke and Sakura were attacked by some freaky Kusagakure shinobi with long, smooth black hair and black eyes. He wore a conical straw hat with a talisman hanging on it with the words evil written 3 times. He also wore plain gray garbs with a black polo and pants underneath, and thick purple rope belt tied in a large knot behind his back. The Kusagakure shinobi gave the two of a gruesome smile. Hello there, my prey. A little birdie told me that you possess a heaven scroll. Sasuke glared in response. Kukuku, no need to have such a face. I have exactly what you want. He reached into his outfit to pull out a brown scroll. You have what I want, and I have what you want. So, without any warning, he tipped back his head and shoved the scroll into his mouth. His long tongue swirled around it. His throat bulged from it, sliding down his esophagus and into his stomach. Now let's begin the battle for each other's scrolls. He then glared at them, his right fingernails touching his bare eyeball as he pulled his eyelid further down his face. With our lives on the line. Immediately, the both of them were blasted with a large dose of killing intent, and the two of them witnessed their own deaths, dying in a violent and brutal manner. The Kusagakure shinobi then withdrew 2 kunai knives and threw them at the both of them. Harshly gritting his teeth, Sasuke barely managed to pull out his own kunai and stabbed himself in the leg. The pain overrode the fear, and he bolted toward Sakura, scooping her up into his arms and running away to find cover. The grass genin did not pursue. He just smiled, knowing he could catch up to them anytime. That was the thrill of the hunt, after all. For the next few minutes, Sasuke ran, catching his bearings, to find anything familiar with the forest he and Naruto trained in. Finally, he found an old hollowed-out tree and hid in there to try and dress his wound and hide Sakura. Sasuke-kun, are you all dash? Sakura's mouth was covered by her crush's hand. Normally, she would have swooned at being touched if the situation wasn't so dire. Stay here. This is not someone to be taken lightly. Gritting his teeth, the Uchiha removed his hand from her mouth, and sorting through one of his hip pouches, he took out a roll of gauze and began bandaging his bloody leg. Ugh, that blood is never going to come out. I should stop wearing white. The Pinkette only looked on with dread, filling her stomach. She froze again, and because of her, Sasuke had to injure himself in order to save her. Already her low self-esteem was rapidly becoming even lower. Sorry. Don't apologize. Sasuke gritted out as he tightened the bandage around his right leg. Make up for it. Get stronger. Don't hesitate again. Slowly getting to his feet, the Uchiha put some weight to his injured leg. It hurt, but beggars couldn't be choosers. Stay here, he ordered before walking outside, and was immediately barraged by a gigantic boa constrictor. Sasuke-kun. Sasuke barely had time to pull out his Kuzurigama and jab the sharp tip into the serpent's scaly stomach when it began to constrict around him. With all his strength at his disposal, he tore the snake from what he thought was his stomach to his neck, spilling hot blood on him, leaving him well lubricated to slip out of its grasp. Barely having time to take a breath, he was assaulted by another boa constrictor. Sasuke's eyes widened as he pumped chakra into his legs and made his way into the air with the snake following him, its mouth wide open, sharp fangs gleaming in the light, its eyes glaring at him like the Kusagakure shinobi gunning after him. "Get away!" he screamed, dropping his weapon to let the chain tug on his waist. Sasuke pulled out 10 shuriken that was Hiroshi Higarashi's bestseller 2 months running and watched as the 8-sided shuriken flew from his hands and impacted the scaly hide, killing the creature. Cool, impressive Sasuke-kun. But you should not relax even for a moment. Prey should always be trying their best to run away in the presence of a predator. To Sasuke's surprise and disgust, the Kusagakure Genin rose out of the snake he had just killed, breaking the skin and being covered in slime. "What makes you think I am running?" Sasuke demanded, glaring hatefully at his opponent, his Sharingan blazing to life, the 2 tomos in his right eye and the one in his left spinning wildly. He also brought his hands to his wrists and began peeling the wristbands off. "Who's to say I am the predator?" For resounding cracks echoed throughout the area when he finally rid himself of the weights on his wrists and ankles. "And you are the prey." The grass genin balked at the surprising speed, and to Sasuke's surprise, his entire body stretched out, and he began twisting himself up the nearest tree like an actual snake. Not satisfied with the route his opponent was taking, Sasuke pursued him by running up the tree, his hands flashing through familiar seals. "Fire style, fireball jutsu." He roared as a massive orb of roaring flame erupted from his mouth and shot off after his opponent, leaving behind nothing but burning devastation. The grass genin bolted away from the burning fire, arching in the air with glee on his face. He pulled up his right sleeve to reveal a black tattoo on his forearm, revealing a serpent wrapped around it. Cutting his thumb on his canine teeth, he quickly swiped it downwards on his exposed arm. Summoning jutsu. A gigantic cloud of smoke erupted, disrupting Sasuke's vision before he saw, to his shock, his opponent was standing on a monster of a snake. "That is not going to scare me." Great Leaf Flash. The Sharingan user charged at his opponent and unleashed a powerful lateral kick aiming at his head. He unfortunately was dodged and was grabbed by his leg and thrown away. His hands flying into motion, the grass genin expelled a large gust of wind from his mouth. "Wind style, great breakthrough." Sasuke yelled out when the technique struck him, sending him hurling through the forest until he managed to mold his chakra to his feet and stick to a tree. Sweat was pouring down his face from exhaustion setting in, but his opponent seemed to not running out of steam anytime soon. "You're not going to beat me, you freak," he growled out in anger. Reaching to his pouch, he pulled out a Demon Wind shuriken and 5 kunai already wired. Placing one in his mouth, he jumped towards his opponent and his summon. The Kusagakure shinobi's face broke out in a wide grin. He directed his snake to go forwards, eat his opponent, and he must. Sasuke threw 3 kunai at key points along the branch they were slithering on, then landing on another branch, he threw his Demon Wind shuriken and watched as his opponent moved out of the way, and it missed, but he planned on that. Channeling his chakra into the wires, he jumped from his position and forced his opponent to stop and direct his snake towards his position. Sasuke then manipulated the wires to loosen and then harden as he swung circles around the grass genin and his snake. Each wire snared them, trapping them, binding them. The sharp wire dug into his gloves, and he could feel the skin breaking in his hands. But he ignored them until he tugged tightly and landed on a branch opposite of them. To finish his maneuver, the Uchiha removed his kunai from his mouth and threw it, and the remaining one he had in hand, lodging it in the snake's hide. "Who's the prey now?" he exclaimed with wire in his mouth, his left eye developing a second tomo, and both spinning wildly as his hands flashed through hand seals. "Fire style, Dragon Flame Jutsu." Sasuke breathed fire along the wires, which rushed forward in straight line, catching his enemy and his summon on fire. The giant snake and its summoner lit up like a bonfire on a dry, hot day. The smell of flesh and burning would carry through the entire area. The tree branch broke and fell to the forest floor, taking its burning cargo with it. Sasuke sighed in relief and collapsed on the branch where he stood. His heart was pounding like a war drum, his nerves frazzled, and his chakra depleted until he could get a good rest. He was exhausted, but he couldn't keep the smile off his face. What a rush. Kukuku, I can certainly agree. Immediately, Sasuke's eyes popped open, and he got to his feet to see the grass genin several feet from him. His Sharingan still active, he saw that his opponent's clothing was crispy, but his face was melted to reveal on the right side of his face to show he had very pale skin, one golden eye with a slitted pupil, purple markings around it, and fang-like teeth. Ow, how did you survive? Your dead eye killed you. Sasuke shouted in denial. Oh, Sasuke-kun, you're 100 years too early to defeat me. The grass genin chuckled and placed his hand upon the Hittite, ignoring as his fingers were burned by the hot metal. But to be able to use the Sharingan so well at your age, you truly are the one with the powerful Uchiha blood flowing through your veins. He grinned savagely. I want you. No thanks, I do not prefer guys. He immediately said right off the bat. Damn it, he had been hanging out with Naruto way too much. The dough was beginning to rub off on him. Kukuku, I do not mean it that way. But I had fun testing you. He then wiped his hand away to reveal a familiar music note on the metal. You may just surpass Itachi with those eyes of yours. Who the hell are you? How do you know of Itachi? Sasuke hotly demanded. My name is Orochimaru, and if you want answers, then survive and pass the exam. Without warning, his neck suddenly elongated, and due to Sasuke's fatigue state, he didn't have a chance in hell to dodge out of the way. He felt sharp fangs sink into his neck, and then the burning began. I'm going to give you a little going away present to remember me by. He whispered into his ear. Letting out a roar of anger, Sasuke grabbed his Kusarigama and swung at Orochimaru. The man only laughed, and his long neck retracted back to his body several feet away. Good, you have spirit. I honestly hope we do meet again, and the power you crave shall be yours. Without another word, he disappeared into the tree and was not seen again. Sasuke growled and collapsed to his knees. Dropping his weapon, he grabbed his neck, and unknown to him of the 3 black tomo markings appeared on his neck. The pain caused him to scream and collapse onto that very tree branch. Sakura found him like that a minute later after overhearing everything. Not knowing what to do, she took his unconscious body back to their hiding spot. Hopefully Naruto would be able to find them. Unfortunately, for Sakura, they were the farthest from his mind. Kimimaro Kagaya was making him fight for his very life. Still sitting on the ground with his back to the tree, the former full blonde, with great pain, tore the bone sword from his wrist and placed them in the familiar cross-shaped seal. Multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu. In a large cloud of smoke that engulfed the area, 100 Narutos appeared. The original smirked at his enemy. Beat that, you jerk. Frowning, Kimimaro tore away the remains of his outfit to reveal his pale upper torso. He had a slim build like that of a dancer, and he had what looked like a tattoo that consisted of 3 slightly curved lines, which spread in a rip-like pattern located at the upper portion of Ho's chest over his manubrium. This will not take long. Bones then grew out of his body, from his kneecaps, elbows, shoulders, and palms of his hands. Dance of the Willow. Fuck your dances, get in, boys. The clones let out a loud war cry, unsheathing their respective swords and began bombarding the Kagaya. Almost immediately, though, Naruto felt and saw the death of his clones. He knew they were just a distraction for Kyuubi to fix him up and to do something he hoped he wouldn't have come to doing so fast after his mission in Wave Country. First, he began removing the weights on his ankles and wrists, lightening his load by a milestone. Next, he closed his eyes and talked to the fox. Kyuubi, I'm going to need your help. I know. I'll give you enough to keep your mind clear. Any more, and I fear you will lose control. Thanks. Hopefully it will be enough. Sheathing Handen Ryoku in its scabbard, Naruto felt a rush of Kyuubi's red chakra flooding his system. The wound in his leg healed, closed to reveal thin skin underneath, and his hand also healed to the point he could move it correctly, and finally the scars he forced himself to live with finally closed. He felt there was no need for them anymore. As a layer of red, wispy chakra began to cover his body. The former full blonde could not help but marvel from the memories. Kimamaro's dance was perfect. It was incredibly acrobatic. He used spins, charges, and long sweeping slashes to make his strikes more effective and to evade his clones' counter-strikes. He felt his clones getting stabbed through the gut. Their throats slit, skulls split open, and when some thought they were out of range, Kimamaro extended his bones to attack them without having to adjust his own movement. But even though he was greatly impressed, it did not stop himself from smirking. Boom! The 30 surviving clones bombarded their opponent and detonated in a brilliant flash of light that rocked the landscape around them. Trees were felled, chunks of ground torn asunder, and a crater was ground zero where Kimamaro once stood. The Kagaya, however, did not perish. When the smoke cleared, his skin was blackened. Parts of it were torn open, but not to reveal muscle, but pure white bone underneath that looked like armor with blood dripping from the open wounds, of course. I cannot believe I have to use this on trash like you. He forced out due to half his lower jaw, lacking any flesh before the tattoo on his chest turned orange-red and expanded in lines, spreading all over his body in contorting and parallel lines. When it was finished, it looked like he had black tattoos lined along his naked torso, and his skin had healed up, leaving no trace that he was even harmed. Believe it, pal, Naruto growled out before placing his hands into the Tiger Hand seal. Earth style, Great Mud River. The ground underneath Kimamaro turned into mud, and the man was forcefully forced backwards from the surge of the wave of mud. After flaring through 3 hand seals, Naruto continued. Earth style, Mud Dragon Bomb. Forming out of the mud river, a dragon-like head opened its fanged maw and began firing high-velocity mud balls at his opponent. Bones erupted from Kimamaro's hands, and he began slashing at the projectiles. His eyes were narrowed in frustration now. Each mud ball he managed to slice in half was replaced by another one, and the ones he missed struck him to the point it actually hurt. After getting struck in the face for what felt like the 10th time, the Kagaya took a deep breath and dove under the mud. Watching his opponent disappear, the Jinchuriki released his technique and followed after using his hidden mole jutsu. The ground beneath him turning into sand, he burrowed down into the earth, searching for his opponent by any means necessary. 3 minutes later, both opponents blasted upwards in an exchange of flying fists. Kimamaro's bones soared diagonally cut through Naruto's vest and mesh armor, sending a shower of crimson upwards. But Naruto's claws caught him in the chest as well. Iron Reaver, Soul Stealer. He bellowed out, releasing chakra from his claws, and blasted his opponent away. Blood spilled from his open chest wound, but was closed in the span of 10 seconds, leaving Kimamaro to glare at his opponent. It felt like his lungs were on fire, his entire body was racked with pain, but he could not stop. Not now. Not when Orochimaru-sama's ambitions were not yet achieved. You're a pest. I've been called worse. Gah! Earth-style mud wall. Barely flashing through the hand seals in time and slamming his hand upon the ground, a primitive but very thick and sturdy wall made of earth rose from the ground to stop the bullets that Kimamaro fired from his fingers. His eyes, however, widened behind his mask when they came through, but tumbled to the ground. Kimamaro bit his lip in frustration before he began coughing that made his lungs rattle. When he pulled his hand away, he revealed it to be completely wet with crimson blood. No, not now, not now. He panted out. I have no choice. I must end this now before it's too late. The hell are you saying? Naruto poked his head over his mud wall to watch in horror when Kimamaro underwent another transformation. The transformation was monstrous. He took on a dinosaur-like appearance complete with a tail. 3 large bones protruded from the sides of his darkened skin, and along his spine were numerous sharp spikes. His hair became ash gray. 2 dark black curved like markings formed under his eyes, 1 under each eye and 2 as elongated eyebrows, 1 above each eye. Speaking of his eyes, they changed as well, the iris becoming golden yellow and his iris becoming completely black. Kimamaro bowed his head, and his spine slowly slipped out until he grabbed it and literally tore his spine out, only for a new one to replace it a second later. The new weapon expanded to reveal black gaps in the cartilage. Dance of the Clematis, Vine, he calmly said. So hardcore but so nasty. Quickly placing his hands in the bird seal, Naruto barked out. Earth-style, falling earth spears. The ground exploded from dozens upon dozens of spikes erupting from it. Kimimaro barely even blinked before bursting forward. The spears hit him, but didn't penetrate his skin or even leave a mark. Dozens more erupted in front of him, and he lashed out with his whip, and the spikes fell away. Then, blasting through the mud wall and watching his backtracking opponent retreating, he snapped his bone whip. It extended to an alarming degree, wrapping around Naruto's chakra cloaked body, and watched as the sharp bones pierced his flesh. Refusing to cough, even though doing so sent waves of pain through him, the last Kagaya raised his left arm, and out of his body formed massive bones until they twisted and became a gigantic drill-like weapon. Dance of the Clematis. Flower. Shit, I cannot move my arms. Kyuubi, I need more. You will lose control if you get any more. I know, but now is not the time for control. Now is the time for action. Don't say I didn't warn you, boy. Without another word, Kimimaro closed the distance between him and the mask wearer. He dodged to the right as the darkness beam flew at him, raised his arm, and stabbed to deal with the finishing blow. A blast of the foul red chakra, and the sudden movement in the former full blonde's arms destroyed the bone whip he had surrounding him, and with wide eyes Naruto's body was engulfed in a shroud of translucent red, with bubbles of chakra forming all along it. Naruto's eyes flashed red underneath his mask, and a snarling noise erupted from his mouth as a single chakra tail erupted from the left area of his backside, and then another erupted on the right side. Naruto rushed forward on his hands and feet now, and they butted heads. Kimimaro's near indestructible skull and Naruto's rock-hard mask exploded under the pressure as the sound of a gunshot echoed throughout the area. Both reeled back. Kimimaro's head split open, and healing seconds later, Naruto's mask severely cracked around the forehead and right eye area. Gritting his teeth, Kimimaro's entire body erupted in bone spikes, and he relentlessly began attacking his opponent without mercy. His bone drill clipped his left side, ruining his already destroyed vest even further. His clawed hand and bones popping from between his knuckles slashed and impaled his stomach. That just seemed to enrage the Jinchuriki even further. Raising his right fist, he clawed Kimimaro's face wide open. Then with a demonic cry, he used his left hand to cut him through his left shoulder all the way to his right hip, tearing away the bones sticking out of him, and kicked him away. Falling onto all fours, he let out a primal roar that made all wildlife scatter, and he swung his clawed hands, watching them extend with his chakra cloak, tearing up the earth under him, and sent Kimimaro flying. Thanks to the chakra pumping into his legs, the black-streaked blonde shot off like an arrow and collided with his flying opponent. Both bodies blasted through dozens, if not hundreds of the ancient trees, scaring or slaughtering any wildlife that got into their path. Once Naruto even swore he passed both teams 10 and 8. Kimimaro, however, was not willing to just fly like a speeding bullet. Using everything he had, he extended the bones one more time and fully impaled the enraged genin. If Naruto felt anything, he certainly didn't show it. Instead, he brought his claws back and began scratching the shit out of his enemy like Tora did to him once upon a time ago. This continued, repeated stabbing, clawing, and self-healing until the two shockingly hit a wall. Well, it was not a wall exactly. It was more of a fence that was torn open like a hot knife through butter, forcing the two to hit the ground violently and carve a deep trench in the ground before they came to a grinding halt. Naruto regained consciousness after what felt like a few hours through hazy eyes and the damaged eye holes in his mask. He saw Kimimaro slowly standing up under his own willpower. His entire body was normal again like his was, but he was feeling it. Naruto couldn't move. His body just couldn't. He had nothing left in him. Slowly, Kimimaro pulled one last bone sword from his shoulder and slowly moved it forwards. "I win," he said after coughing out a mouthful of blood. "No, you do not." Naruto felt something odd, something new, something disturbing from the Juganai. He was always in control of what he did with it, but now, completely exhausted, the demonic tool took charge and did something he did not expect. Kimimaro's eyes widened. His newly created sword fell to the ground, and he let out an uncharacteristic, horrifying scream as he gripped his head. By the love of Kami, it felt like scorpions were stuffed into his brain and were stinging him, pumping him full of venom. He swayed from side to side, clutching his head in agony before it all stopped, a blank look coming to his eyes, and he collapsed in front of Naruto. Jugen, what did you do? The horrified Uzumaki demanded. I'll tell you what I did, Ninjin. I plunged into the mind of that Kagaya. I sorted through his memories and overruled the snake Sanin's brainwashing. The sentient I replied in a smug voice. What did you do? Instead of him being Orochimaru's loyal servant, he is now yours. All his memories are intact. I made sure of it. But now his loyalty lies with you. The fuck, I do not want this. This is wrong, Jugen. I don't want a servant. Fine then. If you're not willing for a servant, then I will fix him once he wakes up. If he wakes up, too. Cutting the connection, Naruto slowly moved his right hand to his mask and slowly peeled it away. Bright light assaulted his senses, but he saw several figures standing over him, and when his sight regained focus,